the legendary Hollywood director. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 201, Rookie's Guidance, Subscription Recommendation. If James Wan were to judge the cast of Saw, he would be most satisfied with Hugo Weaving, followed by J.K. Simmons, and finally Jason Statham. The criteria for judging are simple: acting skills and harmony of the roles. If we don't judge by relationships, this is the most intuitive thing to see about actors. It's easy to tell who is good and who is bad. He likes Hugo Weaving the most. He has a good image, a thin figure, and a professional temperament of a doctor. Wherever he stands, people will be convinced and give him a thumbs up from the bottom of their hearts. The industry of actors especially needs a breath of life, the kind of spirit that is closely related to the person himself from the inside out. With more stories, more insights, and more understanding, that feeling will naturally emanate. It's like the fragrance of flowers, and it smells pleasant. There is no doubt that Hugo Weaving has been acting for nearly 20 years, and he is at the most mature time in his life in terms of how he behaves. He is very transparent, and people can't help but follow his performance. As for J.K. Simmons, it was the script itself. He played a corpse, lying there motionless, and you can't see how good his acting was. But he was also dedicated. He played a corpse when he was told to, and often lay there for more than half an hour. No one could find fault with him. As for Jason Statham, what can I say? He was a latecomer, and he didn't receive systematic training, so his foundation was weak. He didn't have the innate acting talent like Heath Ledger and Cage. We often call this kind of people God's gift. He relied on random thinking, hard work, and perseverance to shoot. If this part didn't work, he would do it again. If it still didn't work, he would repeat it again and again, and use practice makes perfect to make up for the feelings and emotions needed for the performance. Every night, he would spend a lot of time thinking about the scenes he needed to shoot tomorrow, and how to handle them. In this case, the general scenes were okay, and he could handle them completely. This is also the reason why the shooting went smoothly at the beginning. But when it comes to particularly delicate or intense passages, it is inevitable that the performance will appear to be insufficient and a little off. This is the basic problem. You need to be more restrained in this section. You see, Adam is a scoundrel who likes to take secret photos and has a rather self-centered personality. After he was arrested, he heard the sentence in the tape that only one of the two people could walk out, and he had already wanted to kill. He is not like Lawrence, who has simple ideas and thinks that the murderer is deliberately provoking and is watching a joke. Otherwise he could have just killed them when they were unconscious. In the actor's restroom on the set, James Wan was explaining the play to Jason Statham. After the staff finished their duties, they also rested there. Some chatted, some sat quietly to relax. Everyone was waiting. But when he saw that Lawrence really dared to saw off his calf, he must have been shocked first, and then he was upset. Because he escaped, but he didn't. Do you understand? As a trapped person, the madness of his companions must have affected him, so he also hardened his heart, just like that. James Wan gestured continuously, saying ideas that he didn't quite understand. When you perform, you should suppress your emotions, but not too much, because you don't have the determination of Lawrence. Jason Statham listened silently, stroking the mineral water bottle in his hand. He was tangled in his heart. He understood what the director meant, and he also understood this part. He couldn't be overshadowed by Lawrence, otherwise the rivalry between the two protagonists would become a one-man show. How could that be possible? But what he needed was not these, but he hoped that the director could tell him what to do specifically. But the director's profession, the thing he least knew and disliked the most, was how to teach people to act. They are not acting teachers. Can they specialize in analyzing the use of macro expressions and body language? But forget it. It's good enough that they know what they want. To a large extent, every performance should be the actor's impromptu performance. It's the sudden expression of emotions. Everything is designed, and then it is done step by step. That's not called acting, that's called rehearsal. Many times, the acting teacher can only teach some muscle control techniques. As for acting, it is a process of learning, accumulation, and slowly superposition. Obviously, Jason Statham has not reached this level yet. So, even if he understands, he can't act it out. Meanwhile, in another corner of the studio, taking advantage of the break, Lemon was sitting and talking with Eva Green. The filming was blocked, and he was not the most troubled. On the contrary, he was in a good mood now. He even wanted to see James Wan's training skills. How do you say to act as naturally as you go weaving? Eva Green also read the script. It was after reading it that she realized that she might be like Jason Statham, unable to act that kind of feeling, or to imagine the feeling of a person having his leg sawed off. It cannot infect the audience and bring them a more realistic viewing experience. You will naturally become good at acting after acting more. There is no need to worry. Lemon leaned back in his chair and said indifferently, in his opinion, actors need life experience. For young people like Eva, it is useless to think too much. What if I can't act? There are many ways. Lemon continued, give a profile shot to let the audience focus on the wound or the blood on the ground, and don't take a close-up of the character's face. But in this way, the climax will not be so cool. You know, watching people suffer will also make people feel more involved and empathize with them. Eva nodded silently after hearing this. This method is also the most common shooting technique of borrowing metaphors in movies. It is usually a helpless way for those who have poor acting skills or those who can't achieve the desired effect, who doesn't want to try to be better, but this person has a limit. If it really doesn't work, it is definitely not good to force it. When watching some popular young actors perform, such shots often appear, or the lines are covered up by voiceovers without showing their faces. Everyone rested for about half an hour before resuming filming. But seeing Jason Statham still looking depressed, it seems that it still doesn't work. Have you said the scene? Yes. James Wan stood behind the monitor, spread his hands in a rather rogue manner, and sighed, but I don't know how it will work. Let's try it first. The camera is okay. The sound is ready. Okay, action. The camera was aimed at Jason Statham again. This time he remembered to act more restrained. His brows were wrinkled, as if he was in great pain. Click. Less than a minute after the official filming started, James Wan stopped filming. No, it's too deliberate. He turned his head and looked at Lemon, who was watching the excitement on the side. Chapter 202 Stubborn. Subscription recommendation. Do it again. Cut. The eyes are not good enough. Do it again. Cut. After shooting 5 times in a row, the scene still failed. James Wan stood behind the monitor, pacing back and forth. He was extremely anxious, but he was not a person who liked to vent his temper, because he knew that it was a meaningless thing. But if he didn't vent, he would feel blocked in his heart. He picked up the megaphone, put it down, and picked it up again. He looked very forbearing. Jason Statham was also in a bad mood, covering his head with both hands, and his shoulders slumped. Although his expression could not be seen clearly, anyone with a discerning eye knew that he was also under great pressure. For an actor, it is terrible to have no opportunities, and it is also uncomfortable to have opportunities, but not be able to complete them. Hugo Weaving, who was standing by, saw this and hurried forward to comfort him. But he didn't know what to say. What he needed most at this time was to complete this performance. But he couldn't teach it. Every actor has his own performance that he has figured out and suits him. If it were Heath Ledger or Nicolas Cage, I believe we would see different emotional renderings, but the perception would be the same. James Wan picked up the bottle of water and took a few gulps to moisten his dry throat. If the actors can't get into the right state, the filming schedule will be delayed, and this is not what he wants to see. He was anxious, afraid of disappointing too many people's expectations of him, his own, his good friend Ray Navas, Lemon's, and every member of the crew. So, his eyes began to capture a certain figure. Lemon swore that he noticed something 0.0001 seconds after James Wan's gaze was cast over. But he remained motionless, thinking of pretending not to see it. As mentioned earlier, directors are not teachers in acting classes, and few of them understand acting. Lemon didn't understand either, and he didn't think he could teach anything. However, the moment James Wan opened his mouth, He still understood that some things could not be avoided. He, a nominal producer, was in trouble again after all. Hey, why say again? What should I do? Can you go over and help? What can I do? Didn't you say you wanted to act? He was inexplicably given high hopes, but Lemon just wanted to say, I can't do it. When we were filming Bad Guys, didn't I often see you communicating with Tom Cruise? He acted quite well. Damn, are you comparing the two of them together? Although those film critics always mock Tom Cruise for his poor acting skills, who should he compare with? Besides, Jason Statham doesn't have as rich a resume as him. But looking at his expectant eyes, Lemon couldn't say this. It's too discouraging. Besides, Jason Statham's professional attitude is still impeccable. You should think about the good side. You can't just look at his shortcomings. Besides, the salary is just right. It's only 1.8 million US dollars. What can you complain about? Or, how about you interpret this shot in a different way? Lemon made a very pertinent suggestion. In any case, dragging it on like this will definitely not do any good. Really can't teach? I was just acting. He emphasized the word acting. After hearing this, James Wan, for some reason, suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, I'll go talk to him. Hugo Weaving was still trying to comfort him, and when he saw the director coming over, he quickly retreated with great tact. The atmosphere between the two was very awkward, and James Wan was about to say something. Jason Statham spoke first. I'm sorry, director. It's no use saying this. James Wan sighed. I'm sorry, I really can't act it out. I don't know what effect to perform. I don't have any idea in my mind. His situation was a typical case of a novice account going to fight a regional boss, firing at full power, but the boss's health bar didn't even disappear. He was completely confused. What's more, there was Hugo Weaving's example before. This naked comparison sucks. It's useless to think about that. We have to continue filming anyway. James Wan's tone was not very good, but there was no way he could get better. Wait, don't show your face. Just shoot your calves in the ground. Just do the movements well. Do you understand? Jason Statham didn't say anything. He felt sad. This kind of thing must be difficult for an actor to accept. Maybe some people don't care and think it's a relief, but he doesn't. He wants to be an actor. He likes acting. With his mouth slightly open, can you let me try again? What did you say? His voice was very low. Director, can you let me try again? He repeated. This time, James Wan heard it clearly, but seeing that he was so uncomfortable, that he was about to collapse, he couldn't bear to refuse. What the hell is this? It's like when you participate in a show and perform the last show. The eyes of the whole audience should be on you. It should also be a glorious moment in your life, your showtime. But at the end, someone tells you, oh, you don't have the skills. Forget it, just do some action. This kind of doubt is really terrible, so terrible that Jason Statham can't accept it at all. Yes, he doesn't have superb acting skills. Yes, he doesn't have the kind of acting talent in his bones. Since his debut, he has always acted in action movies, or played soy sauce in other works, to set off the protagonists. But doesn't he pursue it? Is he content with the status quo? No, he never has. He wants to improve. Also, after spending so many days with Hugo Weaving, he was stimulated by him in the scene just now, and this guy is a bit stubborn, so he must not let it go. He really wants to fight and force himself to climb to that level, but his strength and foundation are a little lacking, so he can only struggle halfway. And James Wan was soft-hearted and left without saying a word. He was very anxious, but he showed his support with his actions. After all, he couldn't say to Jason Statham, your level is just like that. It's useless to insist. Just make do with it. Don't take it too seriously. He couldn't say this. He walked back to the monitor slowly. He sat down helplessly. Seeing this, Lemon knew that the matter might not have been resolved. Nonsense. The emotion was written on his face. No matter how you look at it, it doesn't look like the matter has been resolved. He wants to try again, and I agreed. Well, let's try it. Anyway, no matter what decision is made, he can understand it. People, aren't they just messing around when they live? Even if the shooting plan is delayed, he, as a producer, will definitely take the responsibility. What's there to be afraid of? Just consider it as gaining experience. Besides, the director that he has decided to support, no matter what, he has to straighten this rod. Shit. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 203 Night Talk, Subscription Recommendation. There were supposed to be 4 scenes, to be filmed in the afternoon. But after finishing the second scene, we couldn't go on. Looking at the watch, the hour hand moved to the gap after 5. It's still midsummer, and the sunset time in Los Angeles is relatively late. Looking at the sky, although the sun is slanting, it is still clear. But the filming couldn't go on anyway, so Lemon simply discussed with James one, and decided to call it a day, and talk about it tomorrow. At about 5:30, the set was cleaned up. Seeing that everyone was in a bad mood, and it was still early to leave, he simply said, "Let's go to a restaurant." Several cars filled with people rushed to a famous hotel in Los Angeles. There was enough food and a few bottles of wine were ordered. Drink a little, but don't drink too much, for fear of delaying tomorrow's work. Everyone ate and drank, and finally felt comforted, and the atmosphere became better. When the scene ended, and we returned to the hotel, it was already 8 o'clock in the evening. Lemon did not go back to the room directly, but first went to a nearby retail store, and got 2 packs of cigarettes, then went upstairs to look for Jason Statham. He was the one who found the actor, and James one agreed. Now that the filming was blocked, no one was feeling comfortable. Knock, knock. It was the sound of knocking on the door. When the door opened, Jason Statham was a little surprised. "Director Lemon, why are you here?" Then he thought of something and smiled dryly. He must have known the purpose of the other person's visit. Lemon did not say anything more, sitting on the sofa in the living room, looking at him, and took out 2 packs of cigarettes from his arms. He tore it open, and handed him one. The flame from the lighter was tiny, and he lit it, and took 2 puffs. Jason Statham began to relax. "What about you? What do you think?" After waiting for a while, he felt that the time was almost right. Lemon asked, "Just want to act this part well, but I can't figure out how to express that emotion." Jason Statham held a cigarette in his mouth, frowning. He was still very upset. It can be seen that this is almost driving him crazy. You should stop thinking about those things. Relax first. You know how to act, right? Lemon continued. "Yes, Director James also told me, and I also understand, that I should act with restraint, and it is best to be on the same line with Hugo Weaving. You don't know how to restrain, right? Almost. Anyway, when it comes to acting, I get stuck, and don't know how to continue. Have you suffered any injuries in all these years? I mean, serious ones?" Lemon asked again. "Yes, a lot. For example, when I was on the set of the Italian Job, I fractured the little finger and this part of my right hand again." He lifted up his shirt and pointed to the left ribs near the lower abdomen. If you want to shoot an action movie smoothly, it is inevitable to get injured if you are not careful. Don't you see that almost all the veteran action stars, such as Big Brother Cheng, Stallone, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, go into battle with injuries? What was your reaction at that time? Think about it. Reaction? What kind of reaction is this? "I just raised my hand," told the director, and then went to the hospital. Jason Statham looked confused. He didn't even understand why Lemon asked these questions. "Doesn't it hurt?" "It hurts, but it's useless. Just bear it, and go to the hospital to see a doctor." Damn, Lemon rubbed his head, speechless. "I originally wanted him to simulate the real experience, so that I can put myself in the mood. But he doesn't have much emotion at all." "That's right. Looking at his muscles, I guess he has stumbled a lot. He's used to it. You should have watched Hugo Weaving's performance. What do you think?" "It's very good. I feel heartbroken watching it from the side. This guy is very honest." "Can you imitate it?" "No, don't I know how to act? I can't put myself in the mood." "When your body is in pain, how do you behave? Grit your teeth?" "It hurts a little more. My gums are about to break." "Well, it's a tough guy answer." Well, you have analyzed the character. You should know that Adam is a fearless man, and he is thinking about killing Lawrence and escaping from the basement. So when he saw Lawrence escape, what should he think? Fear? There is more. He also wants to escape, very urgently. Yes, this is his motivation. Then when he first started sawing, he must have made up his mind, right? But he doesn't have Lawrence's determination for his family, so, you have to hold back a little bit at first, and then explode a little bit, to form a sense of layering, and also distinguish it from Lawrence's performance. Let me think about it. Jason Statham stopped smoking, sat there, and his eyes began to wander. This is all I can do. Lemon sighed first, then said, practice more, especially the eye contact scenes. You can act in front of the mirror and watch your own performance to figure out the emotional changes. Also pay attention to the sense of layering and coherence and get the right measure. I believe you can do it. After encouraging him, Lemon didn't think he could teach anything. Anyway, everything depends on whether Jason Statham has figured it out. If he feels it, it's good. If he doesn't feel it, there's nothing he can do. In the end, it's still the director James Wan who has a headache. Let him be in pain. It's impossible for a director to be smooth sailing all the time. Everything has to be in moderation. He came to the corridor and returned to his room. He knocked gently. After waiting for a while, Eva came to open the door. The whole crew knew that they lived together. There was nothing to hide. The man was unmarried and the woman was unmarried. What's wrong with sleeping together? It's a matter of mutual consent. Where have you been? You came back so late. I talked to Jason Statham for a while. Lemon lamented, obviously not wanting to say more. Eva understood and didn't ask any more questions. Entering the room, the lights were on. There was a double bed with the bedding spread out. Were you sleeping just now? You didn't come back. I thought you had something to do, so I took a shower and was just about to go to bed. Lemon closed the door and hugged Eva. Sniffing the fragrance on her hair, he whispered in her ear, then take a rest. Eva looked at him charmingly, smiled. After taking a shower, she was sitting at the head of the bed. Her good figure, that couldn't be covered by the loose pajamas, made people very nostalgic. Eva said coquettishly, wait, turn off the main lights first. Why, are you still shy? Having said that, Lemon still obediently turned off the lights, leaving only a small lamp on the bedside. The night was getting deeper and deeper. Two lonely people leaned on each other, talking, trying to say goodnight. Chapter 204 Leaving. Subscription recommendation. The crew of Saw. Are you leaving today? Or wait a few days until I finish filming this? James Wan still looked worried. He handed over a can of coffee while trying to exchange glances with his good friend Raynava. Raynava sat on the chair, pretending to be deaf and dumb, pretending not to see it. Jason Statham's scenes were still shot with difficulty, but at least there was progress. But Lemon didn't plan to stay here anymore. He had a lot of things to do, and he had to deal with them. I also want to watch you finish filming, but I can't make it in time. Lemon said. Ahem, how about leaving Ryan here to help me? Finally, James Wan said what he was thinking. It's really comfortable to have a professional producer to help manage the crew. He got a taste of it. Okay, so this is the idea. Lemon shook his head. You're almost done filming, and there aren't many scenes. I need him there too. Besides, isn't Raynava also a producer? Trust him, he can do it. Raynava, who had been sitting on the side and remained silent, forced a smile in response. He himself was a little pessimistic about himself. What about the filming schedule? James Wan said hesitantly again. Don't worry, I'll give Europa Films a heads up. After that night, no one knew what Jason Statham had been thinking about. But his state was a breakthrough that anyone with a discerning eye could see, although he still had to shoot a few times before he could barely match Hugo Weaving's performance. Because of this, the filming plan would definitely be delayed. That's good. James Wan breathed a sigh of relief. To be honest, he was still a little nervous because he didn't follow the scheduled filming schedule for the first time. Lemon didn't care. This movie was just a practice. No matter what happened, he would be mentally prepared. Moreover, the production of Saw has not spent much so far. There is still more than 1 million left out of the 5 million shooting funds. The scenes have reached the final stage, which should be enough for the next shooting. Anyway, if you have any questions, call me. Finally, Lemon asked. Don't worry, I will definitely not overspend. Once Iron thought it was about the shooting budget and promised decisively. He has always respected Lemon. Sometimes he even feels that this person is too good to him. You see, he is a well-known new director in France. He belongs to the level of the industry that is praised by everyone. He can make a lot of money by making a movie. He even feels that as a director, Lemon has reached the ceiling of the industry to some extent. He has works, honors, Little Golden Man, Cannes Jury Award, reputation, and the audience likes him very much and always supports him. Even after more than 10 years, I believe that his name will be mentioned in the French film industry and even Hollywood. The French box office champion in 2003, Bad Guys has almost secured the spot, 50 million euros higher than the second place. As for the value, or the director's worth, it is definitely one of the best in the industry these days. Moreover, he takes good care of himself. This is the premise of all the above. He wanted to make his own work, and without saying anything, he invited Europa Films and Paramount to help him, and also took the initiative to invest in it. What kind of favor is this? James Wan didn't know. He only knew that he had to make this work well to repay him. In the end, Lemon still held a cigarette in his mouth and watched them go back to the set. The next day, he boarded an international flight to Paris with Eva Green and Ryan. On the plane, the beautiful stewardess pushed a cart and kept asking in the aisle, "What would you like to drink?" Seeing an acquaintance, she smiled even more. "Give me a glass of water." "Thank you," Lemon said. "A cup of coffee." "This is Ryan." "Then I want juice." "Blueberry juice." Another voice came from Lemon's side. "Well, this is Eva. What juice are you drinking? You told me yesterday that you wanted to lose weight and get in shape. Have you forgotten again?" Lemon reminded him and then said to the stewardess, "Give her a glass of water, too." HMPH. Eva turned her head away to express her dissatisfaction. But it was useless. Lemon didn't buy it. He took the water and handed it over directly. "As an actor, don't you have the awareness of sacrificing for the role? You still said you want to be a good actor, but a good actor won't be willful for the sake of body shape." As soon as these words came out, they killed instantly. Eva had to take the water. The stewardess next to him also truly felt the approachability of director Lemon. As a frequent flyer between France and the United States, she has also seen many big stars. But this one, in her opinion, was not at all arrogant and did not pretend. Not only was he polite, he also agreed to sign for her. Well, the latter is the most important. "To the beautiful Miss Sinner," Lemon wrote. Finally, he left his own name. The stewardess got what she wanted and then moved forward with a smile. This trip was quite a hassle. They had to fly to Paris airport first, then take a car to Lyman, and finally transfer to the train to their destination Annecy. This is the name of a small town located in the border area of southeastern France, next to the Alps. It is also the filming location chosen by their crew for this trip. As for why they chose it, it's also very simple. There is a very beautiful castle here. It was the family territory of a French nobleman in the past. Coincidentally, most of the scenes in Macro Love require such a beautiful castle. After discussing with the government officials of the town of Annecy, it was also very easy to rent it. Anyway, it would be a waste to leave it there, and it would take a lot of manpower and material resources to repair it every year. Their town has long planned to develop some other values of this castle, such as the filming location of the movie, and for example, a tourist attraction. In this way, the two sides can be regarded as coincidences. The other party also took a fancy to the influence of director Lemon's film and deliberately gave a low price €30,000 a week. Of course, during filming, you should also be careful not to damage the interior too much, otherwise you will have to pay for the cost of repairing it, and the price depends on the degree of damage. It's fair. Macro Love was scheduled to start filming at the end of July, but Lemon has been busy recently, and the delays have not been completed until mid-July. Thomas was so anxious that he kept calling and urging him, so Lemon was embarrassed. He asked him to help prepare the crew, but the main character still didn't show up. "What's the matter?" Chapter 205, Anansi, Subscription Recommendation. The original shooting schedule of Macro Love was to start shooting at the end of July and then strive to complete the shooting by the end of August. 1 month of shooting time should be enough. After all, this movie doesn't have any big scenes. Most of the scenes are centered around 2 or 3 places, and there is no need for frequent transitions. It's probably a little harder than Buried. Buried was completed in 3 weeks. But the idea is beautiful, but it can't stand the gap between reality. Neither Lemon nor Ian participated in the early preparations of the crew. Thomas was busy alone and couldn't prepare quickly. It was mid-August, and Lemon finally remembered his work. In the afternoon, the 3 of them arrived at Paris International Airport smoothly, but they were about half an hour late. It was normal. As soon as he got out of the ticket gate, Lemon hurriedly called the people from Europa Films. "How is it?" Eva asked when she saw Lemon put down his phone. "Waiting at the door. I told them that I wouldn't go there to say hello, and they would take us directly to the set. To be honest, the weather in Paris is not as good as Los Angeles. It's August, and the heat is still obvious." The 3 of them were wearing long sleeves, and they felt hot after a while. Each of them took their own suitcase and walked out with the crowd. As soon as they left the hall, they immediately found the person who came to pick them up. There was no way. It was a bit obvious. The big sign with Macro Love alone attracted a lot of attention, and the person holding the sign was even more excessive. He was afraid that Lemon and his friends would not see it, so he held it high. Lemon hurried over to talk to him. The man smiled happily and took them out to find a car. The car was parked across the road from the airport exit. 2 Pugiats. Well, Pugiat is a subsidiary of the French Citroën group. In France, it is a relatively popular model. There was someone sitting in one of the cars. Perhaps he saw them, opened the door, and got out to greet them. "Here you are, get in the car." This person was George, who had not been seen for a while. He was still the middleman for Europa Films, who was responsible for Lemon's directing projects. "Thank you for your trouble." Lemon smiled and patted him on the shoulder. "It's okay. I'm just free today. Besides, it's troublesome to transfer. It's not easy to drive there. A section of the road collapsed and is being repaired. If you take the train, I'm afraid you won't be able to find the way." Several people got on the car and slowly drove away from the airport, heading southeast without passing through the city of Paris. George brought a notice and a schedule with him, and gave one to Ryan and Lemon. At the same time, he briefly reported the preparations. "We are now setting up the scene at the castle estate in the small town of Annecy. The project is quite large, and Thomas is still in charge there. As for the actors, Sophie Marceau came once, but when she saw you were not there, she left again, saying that she should call her before filming. As for the male actors, what do you think?" George asked. Macro Love has about 3 main characters plus a supporting role with a relatively large role. The leading actresses Sophie Marceau and Eva Green have long been confirmed, but the 2 male actors are still undecided. One is Heath Ledger, and I will look for the remaining supporting actor. Anyway, there is no rush now, and there is still time. Yeah. George didn't refute anything. Given Lemon's current position, he has the qualifications to be willful. But you still have to hurry up. We have to start filming by the end of August at the latest, otherwise the budget for the filming will be uncertain. George reminded him. "Don't worry, there's still more than half a month. It's okay." A small investment movie like Macro Love, the initial cost, is set at $10 million US. Even if Lemon has enough strength and capital, it is impossible for him to take the job unilaterally. This is a very bad signal. Although he has always cooperated happily with Europa Films and Paramount Pictures, it is also based on his ability to bring benefits to the other party. If he reveals the idea of wanting to eat alone, believe it or not, the current very friendly relationship will be broken immediately. No matter how much Luc Besson admires Lemon, he is also the president of a production company, and he needs to be responsible for his company. Moreover, in the entertainment industry, what everyone hates most is eating alone. Disney, Warner, Universal. With such channels and control, they have to introduce capital from Wall Street, or allow other forces to share profits. Why? There is no other reason. In a circle where interests and human relations are intertwined, one must be cautious about this and that. Moreover, a person's resources are limited. If one relies on oneself, the risk is too high and there is not much benefit. The most common method is to find a few more partners to share the cost. This time, it still follows the previous cooperation. 3 companies invest and jointly undertake the project production. The only difference is that the investment ratio of Lemon's Man Studio has increased slightly, accounting for 35%, and his personal worth has not been calculated. A basic salary of $2 million plus 15% of the box office profit in North America and France. For this reason, the board of directors and management of Europa Films have complained about Luc Besson's consent. Unfortunately, Luc Besson sees farther than anyone else and understands that, in order to maintain a good relationship between the two parties, he cannot always be high and mighty and regard cooperation as charity. A large number of management think that it is Europa Films that has made Lemon such a status. He should know what is good for him. Haha, it's really funny to hear. Isn't it that he has fought for his current position step by step with his achievements? From the $2 million buyout of Buried without any dividends, to the 8% box office revenue of 3 Idiots, to the investment share in Fury. Who doesn't speak with strength? If he didn't have the qualifications, Paramount would not agree to such conditions. However, some people always deliberately ignore these. As for distribution, Europa is still responsible for international distribution, and Paramount is responsible for the United States and Canada. The Canadian film market is generally counted together with the United States. As for why, you can check Baidu. In this way, in addition to guaranteeing the distribution channel, there are also many benefits. For example, the castle is a development scenic spot of medium size. Without Europa's help, it would not have obtained the filming license so quickly. From the airport to the train station in Lyman, it took about 2 hours to drive. Then I took 2 trains in a row until about 5 p.m. and finally arrived in Annecy. The distance is not far, but it is troublesome. Not to mention that there are no airports in several nearby towns, and it is not easy to take the train, because they have very few trains, and the railway in France is not very developed, let alone in a remote place like this. Chapter 206, Castle, Subscription Recommendation. This castle in Annecy is located on a hillside. It is called the Castle of Fishercourt. The origin of the name is simple. It is the surname of the first owner who built it. This kind of castle is not too common. According to incomplete estimates, there are more than 10,000 castles of all sizes in France. There are dozens of famous ones that can be ranked among the well-preserved castles in the world. As for castles, according to the time and reasons of their formation, they can be roughly divided into military fortresses, wineries, aristocratic residences, and royal palaces. This castle of Fishercourt was built by Sir Fishercourt, who was in fief from the principality in the mid-18th century. At that time, the whole of Europe was in chaos, and France was no exception, and it was politically divided. Feudal lords and royal enfeoffment members with real power, big and small, were spread all over the French territory. No one could clearly tell the boundaries between them, and no one could fully sort out the relationship between them. It can be said that the history of the construction of medieval castles is the history of long-term disputes and divisions in France. These buildings are witnesses of the long river of time. Those nobles of different ranks, high and low, coveted each other and were wary of each other in order to fight for power and dynasty hegemony. While wars were frequent, the best way to ensure life safety or consolidate territory was to build castles. As a result, the nobles competed to open mountains and quarry stones, busy day and night, and castles were built on the mountains. During this period, countless manpower, money, materials, energy, and time were consumed, and the number of farmers who died for this was countless. Now, the overlords who once dominated the world have long been buried in the soil and disappeared with their broken swords and stirrups. Only the castle, that has experienced the erosion of wind, frost, rain, and snow tells the past visitors about its past glory. So, what kind of person is this Duke of Fishercourt? Lemon asked curiously. Just a loser in the struggle. George had done his homework before coming. He continued, He was originally a direct descendant of the Amboise family, but he was the first to be eliminated in the struggle for family power, so he came here. It was said before that Annecy is located on the southeastern border of France, on the edge of the Alps. At that time, it was a truly remote place. It can be said that the division of fiefdoms was very miserable. What kind of kingship hegemony, basically declared out of reach. Okay, so much introduction before. When it comes to you, it's directly dragged down. That's also why this castle is built very gorgeously and well preserved. There are springs in the mountains. You can try it. By the way, there are no hotels or castles nearby, and people don't let us live there, so we rented a private house, and the conditions may be very poor. It's okay, I don't care about this. Lemon waved his hand and skipped the topic. He didn't come here for enjoyment. At the foot of the mountain, this place has been classified as a scenic spot. The staff sent by the town government looked at the familiar George, immediately removed the long pole, and let him go. Now, their macro love crew is the people that the whole town wants to please. There is no other reason. The economic benefits are really high. Apart from the cost of renting the castle, so many crew members eat, drink, live and travel here, and the people of the town are the ones who benefit. Walking a little further in, there are more and more trees, which are extremely dense and lush. The path opened out of the forest is covered with leaves, and there are bluestone steps on both sides, leading to the heights one by one. Looking up, the white clouds seem to be stationed on the top of the mountain. And halfway up the mountain, there is an ancient castle manor. In fact, there is only one advantage of filming here. The scenery is good. George pounded his waist tiredly. Damn, the car can't drive up this road at all. I don't know how much effort it took to transport the filming equipment up. And there was a power outage, and the mosquitoes in the mountains were poisonous. Don't say it, it's all tears. No matter how beautiful the scenery is, you will feel bored after looking at it for a long time. Not to mention that the conditions in the mountains are really not good. After only 3 or 4 days, Lemon has no time to pay attention to these. The crew is still busy with the early preparations. Ryan goes to George every now and then to discuss the control of funds and the wrangling with the third-party guarantee agency, or to pull Lemon to buy shooting props. Sometimes, he also has to communicate with Heath Ledger about the schedule. His role in Brokeback Mountain has not been settled yet. To complain, Lee is really slow in filming. It's not that he shoots slowly, but this guy always comes up with some new ideas and wants to try them out. In this way, the whole crew has to play with him. However, the producer Focus Films also knows him well, and has not restricted him in this regard. Even the shooting budget is very sufficient, and its purpose is to win the Oscar next year. Of course, if he can catch up, Lemon naturally hopes to give him the male lead, but now it seems that there are some setbacks. But this matter is not the most important thing, and we will talk about it after the crew's preparations are completed. Lemon has entered a state of being busy all day long. This is the work of a director. When he is busy, he wants to split himself in half to cope with it. When he is free, he is always bored. While working hard for the crew, he did not forget to contact and urge the people of Europa Films. Just the day before yesterday, Bad Guys, which had been screened for nearly 2 months, was finally taken off the screen. Most of the overseas regions have withdrawn from the market. The final box office remained at more than $723 million. To be honest, this result is somewhat unexpected, because generally speaking, the box office in overseas regions is usually slightly higher than that in North America, and the profit earned may not be as high as that in North America alone. The distribution in overseas regions is usually more complicated than that in North America, and a lot of money is taken by local agents and theaters. But who made France explode? Relying on Lemon's popularity and reputation, the French people's support for his film is not small, directly winning more than $90 million. Don't underestimate this result. You know, Bad Guys only had a box office of more than $30 million in the UK. By comparison, you can find that the French people really like him. There is no way. Supporting your own director is a slogan often used by Europa Films. Another thing is to discuss with Thomas to determine the shooting style and imaging of this movie. After all, this is a love movie. Pure love movies are also love movies. different from the movies he has shot before. This time, he hopes that the picture can present a warm color and beauty, and the light can also make the character's facial features more full and three-dimensional. Chapter 207 Brokeback Mountain. Please subscribe and recommend. If Lemon were to comment on the filming, the most difficult part is the early preparation. You have to prepare everything, which is difficult and troublesome. But if you don't do it well, the subsequent filming will not go smoothly. It's like laying a solid foundation before building a house, so that the subsequent work can provide a guarantee. After working in the Fishka Castle for about a week, the film's lens imaging style was finally determined. The rest of the scene building, prop making, and purchasing suitable crew costumes are also supervised by Ryan and Thomas. Now Lemon can be considered free, and he is ready to select the actors. Isn't it going to start shooting soon? It's not a big deal if the actors are not all here. After talking to Heath Ledger on the phone for several times, he was hesitant and couldn't explain clearly. He didn't know when his schedule would be free. When he asked him, he said that the filming was almost done and there was only the finishing touch left, but he couldn't say when it would end. Lemon planned to go directly to him. After returning to the B&B and packing up his luggage, he took a bus, then a train, and rushed to the airport. The staff of Europa Films had already booked the tickets. This time, he was going alone. Eva wanted to come, but he refused. It was too troublesome to run around with such a busy schedule. It would be better to stay on the set. It rains a lot in summer. In Wyoming, the United States, it suddenly rained at noon. There was no sign of dark clouds in the sky. It was sunny and rainy. On the straight road, in a Mercedes-Benz car driving smoothly, Lemon witnessed the rain. He arrived at Los Angeles International Airport yesterday afternoon, and then found a hotel there to stay for one night. The next morning, he took a car arranged by Paramount Pictures to come here. The filming location of Brokeback Mountain is on a ranch in Wyoming. By the way, this movie is also a very common novel adaptation. The original work is a collection of short stories written by Annie Proulx, who won the Pulitzer Prize. There are 11 stories in total, all of which are set in Wyoming. The themes of the stories are about the hard life of the farmers in the wild, harsh, violent and unpredictable natural environment. Before the article was intentionally adapted for the big screen, it won the 1998 O. Henry Short Story Award and the National Magazine Award, so it is not lacking in fame. Then it was naturally adapted into a script suitable for filming by writers Larry McMurtry and Diana Ossana. The story is a good story, but Hollywood is not short of good stories. The natural attributes of this script indicate that not many film companies will be interested. After several twists and turns, many directors such as Gus Van Sant and Joel Smesh have successively refused to take over this low-cost film. Finally, producer James Schamus spent $3 million to take over the film script and was favored by director Lyman. I think the current situation of the great director Lyman is also quite embarrassing. The 2003 Hulk almost killed his previous achievements. The filming cost was $137 million, not including publicity and promotion. The release result was only $245.36 million global total box office, which directly caused the producer Universal to lose about $70 million and indirectly aborted Universal's superhero launch plan. You should know that among the Marvel movie copyrights in Universal's hands, only the Hulk is still famous and has relatively outstanding commercial adaptation value. Who wouldn't be jealous of the sudden appearance of Spider-Man with such market results and such fan appeal? Not to mention Universal, 20th Century Fox's X-Men and Fantastic Four, and New Line Cinema's Blade all took advantage of this craze to speed up their creation plans and push them into the market one after another. Needless to say, the former has achieved considerable results in each film. Although Blade did not respond well, it can also make a little money. Only Warner messed up popular comic characters such as the Hulk. Do you think Lyman is irresponsible? The reason why he took over such a low-cost work is probably because of this. After all, Hollywood has always been realistic. The filming location was at the ranch. After the car drove to the foot of the mountain, the road behind was difficult to drive, so he didn't force himself to go up. Lemon found a hotel, put away the luggage and clothes he brought with him, and prepared to hike up the mountain. In fact, it was not far away. The mountain was not very high. It was more like a big slope than a mountain. It was about 15 minutes away. When he was almost at the top, he could already see the crew of Brockback Mountain. The surrounding area was green and there were many cattle and sheep grazing. It looked like a place suitable for grazing. Several tents were set up there, and the staff around seemed to have nothing to do, and were quite leisurely. When he got closer, he saw Heath Ledger sitting on a chair, wearing a cowboy hat, and dressed like a ranch staff. The one next to him was, oh, by the way, Michelle Williams, one of the female protagonists of this film. Seeing that they were chatting enthusiastically, they were probably already in love. "Hi, Heath Ledger," he greeted. "Lyman." Heath Ledger turned around and saw that the man who said he was going to ask for his address had already arrived. "It's been a long time since we last met. How are you doing? What were you talking about just now? I've been here for so long, but you didn't notice," Lyman joked. The two of them were very familiar with each other. Even though they hadn't seen each other for a while, they didn't feel strange. "Nothing. Oh, let me introduce you. This is Michelle Williams." Michelle raised her head slightly and looked at him. She was still quite curious about Lyman. However, what she was most curious about now was that she had a crush on him during the filming. How could Heath Ledger, who had that kind of interest, seem to be very familiar with him? He was a famous French director in Hollywood. Such a relationship didn't look like a simple cooperative relationship at all. "Hello, Director Lyman. Everyone likes to call me Michelle. You can call me that, too." "Well, hello, Michelle." Lyman waved his hand and said politely, "Where's the director? Where's Lyman?" he asked curiously. "When you come to someone's crew, of course you have to greet the host. Besides, he personally admired this artistic director. He had watched many of his works several times in his previous life. The director has something to do and is out." As expected, when he just came here, he felt that there was no filming here. "How is it? Is it okay?" "Not very good. The final filming could have been completed yesterday, but because of the way a scene was handled, the director was not satisfied, so it has been delayed until now." Heath Ledger spread his hands. Chapter 208 Lyman. Subscription recommendation. Lyman came back the next day. He was exhausted and looked out of spirits. This time he went to argue with the guarantor of Valiant's insurance company. What was he arguing about? About the location of the scene. There was a scene in the movie where sheep were drinking water. After thinking about it, Lyman wanted to shoot something beautiful, that is, the kind of shot looking down from the top of the mountain breeze blowing slightly, and then the cowboy played by Heath Ledger drove a group of sheep to the stream to drink water. The idea of shooting, of course, is good. He has a lot of such delicate shots in his movies, which almost formed his personal style. But when it came to the actual practice, there were a lot of troubles. He could not have imagined that the sheep in these pastures would not drink unfamiliar water sources at all, and they would not drink, even if they were forced. Because of this, the crew wasted several days and thought of various ways to solve it. All failed. He realized at this time that sometimes sheep are as stubborn as cows. But there was no way. He wanted this, and he didn't want to shoot a shot hastily to get by. The boredom of not being able to realize the idea is unpleasant. What was even more annoying was that the representative of the guarantor could not stand it anymore and asked him to finish the filming as soon as possible and not to drag it on. Otherwise, they would call Focus Features and the distributor Paramount to intervene. Yes, that's right. The guarantor has such power, and they can even kick the director out of the crew directly. Of course, the latter is a very extreme way. No one would do this unless it was absolutely necessary. Lyman Gang was busy dealing with this matter when he met Lyman, who came from afar to visit the crew. "Hello, Director Lyman." He greeted him warmly. In the rest area temporarily built on the set of the crew, there was a small awning next to several tents for storing filming equipment. There were several chairs, and Lyman just sat there. "Hello." Heath Ledger had also told him about his visit, and it was also approved by Director Lyman, so he was not too surprised. "I asked someone to bring watermelon. Do you want to try it? How can you come to visit the crew without bringing something? This is also a kind of social etiquette." Lemon was very thoughtful and asked someone to help bring a truck of watermelons for the whole crew. Fruits? Just right. He dug one out from the ground next to him and cut it with a knife. Oh, it's red and pleasing to the eye. Come on, have a piece. Lyman was a little confused by his enthusiasm. He even wondered if we were not that familiar with each other, or if this guy was just someone who liked to interact with people. Outgoing. However, he did not refuse. He was really annoyed these 2 days. He was holding back a fire in his heart. Lyman sat opposite him, took the watermelon, and glanced outside the awning. The sky was blue and blue. When he looked up, there was a big fireball hanging there. He couldn't help but say, "It's getting hotter and hotter." Yeah, it's August, and it can still be so hot. Well, there's no way to respond to this. Just sigh casually and go on with the conversation. How can we chat? However, Lemon came with a mission and didn't care about these. How long will it take for your play to be finished? The question was very tactful and direct. The clear meaning was to pull the actors away and adjust the schedule quickly. Liam didn't say anything and took a few bites of watermelon. Of course, he knew what the man's intention was. A few days ago, Heath Ledger also talked to him about something similar, but this matter was not going smoothly. If it was going smoothly, it would have been finished long ago. Maybe it can be done in a day or two, or a week or two. He did give an answer. Lemon didn't quite understand what he heard, but he understood one thing. They are all directors, but this guy didn't even have a specific shooting plan for the film, and he was quite casual. Ding-ling-ling. As he was talking, he heard a cell phone vibrate. Lemon's cell phone didn't have this setting, so he looked at Liam. "Excuse me, I have to answer the phone." He said this, and moved a little. "Hello, what's going on? What? Cut off my funding? Okay, I get it." About 7 or 8 minutes later, Liam returned to his original position. His brows were furrowed, and he was obviously in a bad mood. The two were far apart, and Lemon didn't know what he had just said. He could only vaguely guess that it was not good news. Why is it so difficult to create nowadays? Perhaps because he saw that the other party was also a director. Liam didn't hide his emotions. Making this movie was originally a matter of relying on his past achievements. Thinking back to the good results of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, he didn't know how many film companies he was sought after by. It was just like the old saying, when you are in glory, everyone wants to add icing on the cake. In the end, it was Warner's sincerity that moved him and let him take on the Hulk. It was also his first time to shoot a first-line project with a budget of hundreds of millions, but he didn't expect that there would always be people interfering in the shooting on the set, and in the final editing, it didn't go according to his wishes. In the end, he lost money, but he took the biggest blame. What a fucking bastard. When Liam was interviewed, he complained about the many interventions of Warner management in the film. Considering Zack Snyder's dissatisfaction during the filming of Watchmen and Batman v Superman, we can also see the truth of his words. After all, a veteran company like Warner, especially one that follows the producer-centered system, is hard to say how much freedom it can give to directors. But it is impossible to say that there is no responsibility at all. At least Lemon knows that with Liam's filming style and personal aesthetics, it is impossible to be associated with commercial popcorn movies. It is estimated that Warner chose him to be the director of the Hulk because of the outstanding performance of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and wanted to replicate such market performance again. Unfortunately, their concept of chasing successful people has temporarily failed. These Hollywood film companies are too biased towards the market. Lemon nodded and said along. This is also what he really thinks, so he can cooperate with Europa Films so happily and rarely wants to change partners. At least, Luc Besson is still half a filmmaker and has some stance after all. Liam complained, then suddenly stopped talking and continued to eat the watermelon. Lemon's mind had always been on how to end Heath Ledger's filming schedule. His mind was active at this time, but he was embarrassed to speak directly. Being too straightforward was not his style. After hesitating for a long time, he finally thought of a reasonable way to start the conversation. Directly in, "Are you free tonight?" "Yes, we don't have any scenes to shoot today. What can I do for you?" "Well, I want to treat you to a meal." "Dinner?" Liam was more and more surprised, but he still agreed. Chapter 209 Thoughts, Subscription Recommendation. In our upbringing and impression, the film and drama industry is a very unbearable, unruly, and messy circle, so many parents don't want their children to go down this path. After 10 years in the industry, my personal perception is very different from what I heard when I was a child. I feel that there seem to be more messy things in life. Lian's 10 years of movie dreams. Lian is a Chaozhou native in Pingtung, Taipei. Many people know him from the legendary inspirational story of Unemployed for 6 years, and won the Golden Horse Award as soon as he debuted. Because it is not easy, it is worth talking about. Just like breaking light through the wall, it has the meaning of being passed down. Think about it, a great director who won an Oscar and shocked the world of film, spent 6 years at home washing clothes, cooking and taking care of children when he just graduated. Such an experience is more chicken soup than chicken soup. Who wouldn't want to drink it? But in Lian's view, these are just ordinary 6 years, no different from ordinary people. The only possibility is that he seized an opportunity, so he is what he is today. The story itself is not legendary. Even for him, this period of time is a time he doesn't want to recall, but it is repeatedly emphasized and hyped by the media. No matter how many times he answers, those interviewers always ask questions tirelessly. Don't they know? No, those people just want the answers they want. This kind of answer is stimulating, inspiring, and brings traffic and attention to those who hear it. But for the person involved, it is their real life, and he never wanted that kind of life. Sometimes, I really admire his patience to answer similar questions over and over again. It is true that his original intention in those 6 years is admirable, but have you ever thought that his film career was never laid in those 6 years, and his progress and breakthroughs every year in the future were not what those 6 years could give him? But people only want to see those 6 years. They only want to see what they want to see. He has the traditional literati's thoughts in his bones. The pure love for images is also the reason why he embarked on this path and persisted. The later Father trilogy, Pushing Hands, The Wedding Banquet, and Eat Drink Man Woman are his exploration of his past life. Someone once commented on him like this: he has eyes for food, sex, and a heart for crouching tigers, hidden dragons. He is already 50 years old, and he is a man who has fought out of 2 eras. As he said, when I was young, the new China had just been established. When Kennedy was assassinated, I was still in school, and my classmates all hated him. But after so many years, people have begun to remember his goodness. Therefore, watching his movies, you can feel a sense of the background of the times. Just like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon and Ride with the Devil. As for movies like The Hulk, they are purely for making money. There is nothing wrong with this. Lian himself said that the people in Warner are really generous and sincere. With these, it is difficult for people not to have a good impression of him. Lemon admires him very much, especially since he is also a director, and he can find his strengths even more. There is a small town at the foot of the ranch. Most of the people in the town are also engaged in the ranch business. There is not much population, and there are few facilities. Not to mention restaurants, there are only a few, and there is not much room for choice. In the crew, there are often actors who don't want to eat fast food, so they run down to have a bite. So, generally speaking, Lian also knows which restaurants have good taste. After his recommendation, the group walked through the community, turned around along the small road, and finally came to a place that looked like a restaurant. It's called a restaurant because there is not even a plaque or sign at the door. If you don't tell me, you really don't know it is a restaurant. When you go in and take a look, it may be around 5 o'clock, it's deserted, and there are not many people. Lemon originally wanted a private room, but when he asked, he gave up immediately. The second floor is where they live, and the first floor is a converted hall and kitchen, and there are no private rooms at all. I just found a seat by the window, and the dishes were ordered by Lian. He is quite familiar with this place. Half a roasted lamb, 2 plates of beef, and more sauce. He told the shop owner in a serious manner, then smiled at the 2 people. The sheep they have are the ones that are raised on the mountain. We chose lambs. Well, lamb meat is more tender, not as firm as the bigger sheep. Lemon agreed. You know this. Lian was a little surprised. How come this French director is different from the ones he has seen? Oh, by the way, are you going to compete for the award season with this film? Yeah. Liam nodded. It's an art film, so why not participate in the Oscars? Besides, he himself has ambitions in that regard. In addition to the novel subject matter that interested him, he took on Brokeback Mountain in part to win awards. It's already August, is it in time? No way, the filming is not going well. Thinking of this, Liam felt a little melancholy again. That's right, this is what I fear most, when I'm a director. He felt the same way. What's the matter, have you encountered a problem too? Liam asked with a smile. It's not a big problem. I'm just planning to shoot a movie, and I'm still short of 2 main actors. Liam looked at him and smiled. His smile was very meaningful. This guy, there's something behind his words. As an insider, Liam was naturally aware of this director's honor. But to be honest, he didn't take it too seriously. If he couldn't even take care of his own life, who will care about other people's lives? There are so many powerful directors in the director circle. Qualified and successful directors, big and small, have to rely on their works to survive. You can live off your old capital for a while, but no one can live off it forever. Especially after the failure of the Hulk, I was ignored by all kinds of people, and I felt this. Occasionally, when chatting with friends, we also talked about this newly rising director. I think his works are good, and can reflect his own thoughts. But the speed of filming is a bit too fast. Is bad guys off the screen? I've been busy filming Brokeback Mountain and I've almost forgotten it. Thinking about how long it takes me 3 or 4 years to produce a film, and then comparing it to others, I have to sigh. The era belongs to the young. I originally thought about confirming Heath Ledger's schedule, but I didn't expect it to be imminent. He was a little surprised and asked, "What is it?" It's also a movie about love, and the crew is about to start work. Lemon didn't hide it. Tell the truth. It's so fast. Liam was a little envious in his heart. This production speed. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 210 Discovery, Subscription Recommendation. Liam seemed to have received a very strict family education. The so-called don't talk while eating probably means what it does. A large plate of roasted lamb and beef came up quickly. Smeared with some sauce, the fat, white, and tender lamb can be torn off easily. From then on, he stopped talking. He concentrated on dealing with the food in front of him, as if he couldn't let it down. Lemon was alone, so it was not easy to speak. Otherwise, it would be so embarrassing if others didn't take it. So, he planned to fill his stomach first. Reaching out, he tore off a piece along the texture and stuffed it into his mouth. It's delicious. I don't know what the sauce is, but it tastes moderately salty and has a slight spice flavor. The meat, the heat is well controlled, and it's not as dry as ordinary barbecue. Both of them ate very quickly. After about half an hour, Liam reached out and took the kettle, poured a glass of water, drank it slowly, and then wiped his mouth with a tissue. I've been here several times, and always found the food delicious. Yeah. Lemon nodded. After waiting for a while but no one spoke, he decided to speak first. He coughed lightly and started to talk business. Director Liam, don't you only have one last scene left in this movie? I came here to find a suitable actor, so do you think you can finish Heath Ledger's scene first? Lemon blinked and looked at him. Is it urgent? Very urgent. This guy began to increase his persuasiveness. In fact, it's not that urgent. Anyway, as long as it hasn't officially started shooting, it's not urgent. But Liam didn't know. He picked up the kettle and poured another glass of water. He didn't answer for a long time. He hasn't finished shooting this movie yet, and the actors in the crew are thinking about the next movie. This kind of behavior seems to be inappropriate, but he doesn't mind it, because it's very common in the film and television industry. Some first-line movie stars can even schedule until next year. Although I don't know much about the actor Heath Ledger, I don't have a bad impression of him. On the contrary, I feel quite satisfied with him. If it's really urgent, he is still willing to finish his role as soon as possible. This is why he agreed to come out for dinner. He has 2 scenes left, but there was a problem with the shooting. Did you know about it? Yeah. The sheep refused to drink water. The reason for the delay was strong enough. I originally planned to finish the shooting the day before yesterday, but because of this, it has been delayed until now, and there is no good solution. Lyman said slowly, and suddenly thought of something, and asked again, do you have any good insights? Right, they are all directors, maybe they have some good ideas. Even if not, it's good to draw inferences, and provide some shooting ideas. Then he talked about the general background of the shot and his own shooting concept for the scene. He talked a lot, and Lyman roughly understood it. If you just look at the content, everyone will think it's just a gay movie, what's there to say? But Lyman's idea was not like that. When he received the film, he was at a low point in his life. What he wanted to tell was not just a story about gay men. He had great ambitions. Just like many people in later generations have made comments, the most commented sentence is there is a Brokeback Mountain in everyone's heart. Is everyone gay? No, what Lyman wanted to express was to use the forbidden love between Jack and Ennis to tell a very simple truth. Everyone has a person or place in their heart that they can't forget. Only in the middle of the night, in dreams, when no one is around, will they think of it. Except for themselves, no one knows, and it is deeply buried in the heart. His ideas are very delicate, and Brokeback Mountain follows his style. Jack and Ennis did find their truest selves in Brokeback Mountain. What the camera needs to do is to present the attitudes of 2 completely different personalities towards love through this perspective. Ennis's love is always implicit, and Jack's love is always direct. As for the depiction of the scene here, it also wants to express the same point of view. But the problem is that the lens effect that Lyman wanted was ruined by the lack of cooperation from the sheep. Under the oppressive wide-angle lens, Ennis is numb because of Jack's separation again. Sometimes I miss you so much that I can't bear it. Time is never enough. Never enough. What are you avoiding? The meeting again after 4 months should have been beautiful, but it was noisy. Because of his inaction, his failure to prepare for the reality, or he was afraid. Ennis's fear. Of course, Lyman can't understand such a deep level. He has always followed the principle of story serving the role, so the audience always remembers the role in his movies, while Lyman usually uses the role to serve the story, or uses the role to tell his own story and his own views. But vaguely, he can also understand something. The concepts are different, but the expression techniques and emotions are the same. This mountain bound him, right? Whether it's the sheep or the work on the ranch, they are actually just excuses. The real reason is that Ennis is unwilling to take the last step. He dares not leave the familiar Brokeback Mountain and live in another strange place. Lyman looked at him with admiration in his eyes. As if he was affirmed, Lyman's expression became clearer and clearer. So, you want to use this lens to portray this sense of layering. Speaking of this, Lyman became talkative. For a moment, the room was filled with all kinds of topics about movies. He treats art films and commercial films in 2 extremes. The former uses heart, the latter uses money. Or in other words, with his shooting style, making a popcorn movie is simply a disaster. Sometimes, if you don't taste it carefully, you don't know what he wants to express through the movie. Can you expect those who want to see the mighty violence of the Hulk Connor killing all around to turn into a debate on the secular world, power, and especially uncontrollable power? So, Warner really made a mistake. It's useless to force such a director, and the works produced in a hurry are not spiritual. Let him shoot slowly, and shoot the stories he is interested in. Maybe, he can make a masterpiece full of art. Lyman also saw that Lyman was a pure and introverted man. He usually likes to keep all his thoughts in his heart, and his face is always calm. Take the delay in filming for example. He didn't explain it to the crew, and many people thought he had obsessive compulsive disorder. He had to film the sheep drinking from the stream. But were the sheep actually drinking from the stream? He just wanted to express Ennis's sadness. Chapter 211 Modification, Subscription Recommendation. In the end, the 2 still didn't come up with a good solution. It's not that Lyman didn't come up with any ideas, but they were all rejected. For example, close-up shots of people, narrowing the perspective, or wide-angle lenses to increase the sense of space, all failed to gain Lyman's approval. This guy's attitude towards movies is completely inconsistent with his usual personality, and he is very stubborn. As the saying goes, people can live without understanding, but movies, a career for which he fights all his life, are not allowed. That is what he values most, and any carelessness is unacceptable to him. He also said that, since it can't achieve the expected effect, just delete the scene. Anyway, sheep can't drink raw water. He did it right away, and he also pulled Lyman to design a close-up of the character, directly using Ennis's expression to interpret the dilemma and hesitation. On one hand, the person he likes asked him to go down the mountain and live a new life in a place where there are no acquaintances. On the other hand, there are family, work, friends, and lovers. There are 8 out of 10 things in life that are not satisfactory, and the same is true for making movies. How can everything go smoothly? Lyman also figured it out. It was not a solution to continue to delay like this. He thought he would just shoot it this way. Although it was not as beautiful as the scene he had imagined before, it would at least allow the story to go on smoothly. The next morning, when it was still light, Lyman woke up. He went to bed early last night, but his sleep quality was not very good. He was now living in the only hotel in the town. The decoration of the room was not good at all. The bed was not spacious and hard. Anyway, there was nothing to do. After getting up, Lyman went downstairs and ate some bread for breakfast, and then walked towards the mountain. After about 30 minutes, he arrived at the set. Perhaps because it was still early, most of the people who were busy were staff members. None of the actors were there. However, director Lyman had already arrived and was discussing something with someone. The light for shooting later should be dimmed a little. When it's here, slowly start to increase the brightness. Do you understand? He held a piece of storyboard paper in his hand and spoke carefully to the lighting technician. You're here, so early? Noticing Lyman approaching, he casually greeted him. You're early. Lyman waved his hand in response. Then he sat down on a chair beside him. Where's Rodrigo? Where did he go? Lyman was still busy with today's shooting. He looked around and didn't see the cameraman, so he asked. He went downstairs to move the equipment. A staff member passing by said so. Well, Rodrigo Preto's name may sound very unfamiliar, but this guy's particularly good at shooting such delicate emotional works. For example, he was the cameraman of Love Is a Bitch 2 years ago. The camera style of that work is also gentle. The director is also very interesting. His name is Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu, the man who made Leo's dream of pursuing Oscar come true with The Revenant. Thinking about the beautiful face after debuting, relying on his face to make a living, and then becoming a greasy uncle, and even the photo of him playing with water guns on the set, became a hot topic on the internet, and became an emoticon package collected by many netizens. It is inevitable that people feel sad. Time is really a butcher's knife. Director, is there anything you want to talk to me about? After a while, Rodrigo arrived. He is a Mexican, and his spoken English is not even as good as Lee's. However, this is not a problem for their communication. Sometimes, just relying on the split lens, he can know how to shoot very well. Lyman couldn't get a word in on the side, and looked around a little bored. Not far to the right, between the tent and the shade shed, a small room has been enclosed with a green screen and some simple wooden boards and fences. The roof is covered with cloth and some iron sheets, a proper mix and match style. He also went in and knocked, and there were some sundries piled inside, and daily necessities such as pots and pans were placed on the wooden shelves. This should be the place where Ennis, played by Heath Ledger, will temporarily live on the ranch later. Passing through the house, the sheep lived behind. There were more than a dozen of them, surrounded by a fence. They were not in a hurry, occasionally bleating or eating grass leisurely. Lyman. He had just returned to the shade shed when Heath Ledger greeted him with a smile. Lyman nodded, and Lyman handed him the scene of the script that had been temporarily revised. Is this today's scene? Yes. Grasp it well, and try to get it right in one go. Lyman patted him on the shoulder to encourage him. Okay, I'll take a look first. Heath Ledger twisted the page of paper and sat in the corner again, thinking about his emotions. He always does this. After a while, the actors came one after another. Jack Gyllenhaal, who played Jack, Jack's wife Anne Hathaway, and Heath Ledger's wife in the play Michelle Williams. Anne Hathaway had cut her hair short to cooperate with the filming, but she was still very beautiful. She was not familiar with Lyman, but she also greeted him politely. After all, with his qualifications, it is always right to leave some impression points in the circle. "Hello, Director Lemon." Hearing the greeting, Lemon looked up and then smiled and said, "Miss Anne, hello." She is also considered an act of ours that Hollywood has gradually noticed. Her debut work The Princess Diaries made her enter the ranks of second-tier actresses in one fell swoop. However, just like many actors who are criticized for their poor acting skills, after earning enough fame, Anne Hathaway also began to try to transform and break through the pure image she has maintained since she played screen roles. After all, what Hollywood lacks the most is actresses who rely on their looks to make a living. If she doesn't broaden her acting range, in a few years, she will quickly disappear from the circle like some actresses who became famous for a while. Taking on Brokeback Mountain is a key step for her to clear her idol image. She herself also attaches great importance to it. The actors sat together to act or chat before the shooting started. Unlike their intimate relationship in the film, Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal had no attraction in real life. Or rather, he played the role completely, based on his acting skills, without any emotions. If we really want to talk about emotions, it was his wife Michelle Williams in the film, who made him very fond of her, and quickly ignited the flame of love. At this moment, the two of them were discussing the script together. The atmosphere between the remaining two leading actors was a little awkward. Anne Hathaway sat quietly aside, and Jake Gyllenhaal also interestingly kept a little distance from her. He would discuss the script with Heath Ledger from time to time, but rarely communicated with her. Chapter 212 Confirmation of the Lyman. Subscription recommendation required. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that there are some problems between these leading actors. Although they are gathered together, they are clearly separated. In a subtle way, it seems as if Anne Hathaway has been isolated. She sits next to everyone, but cannot participate in this small circle. There is a trace of worry under her pretty face. As the director and the controller of the entire crew, Lyman is of course aware of this. But he can't and doesn't need to care. As long as they can complete their work, who cares about other people's interpersonal relationships? Anne Hathaway looked at the actors in front of her who were united, and deliberately kept a distance from her. She felt a little annoyed and irritated, and more of a bit at a loss. Before joining the crew of Brokeback Mountain, she was already a popular actress. Disney's enthusiasm for her made her acting career incredibly smooth. Did everyone exclude her out of jealousy? Of course not. Who hasn't been popular? Jake Gyllenhaal was born as a child star, and became popular when he was young. His father is a director and his mother is a screenwriter with more experience in the industry. He can be said to be a second-generation star. Heath Ledger just won the MTV Teen Choice Award for the most popular actor for his wonderful performance in Bad Guys. Besides, this guy doesn't care about being famous at all. As for Michelle Williams, she may have some complaints, because she is also an actress. After all, she is a competitor, but she can't control other people's thoughts. So the real reason lies with Anne Hathaway herself. In order to transform, she took the initiative to find Focus Features and asked to join the group, and even took a pay cut to join. Such a good thing is completely profitable for capitalists like Focus Features who like to listen to the market. There is no reason to disagree. That's right, she was able to join the group by skipping director Lyman and finding away from the investors. Moreover, she has not been polished for several years in independent films, and her acting skills are really not good. She has the most NGs in the crew. You said that with so many factors added together, what good opinions can the other actors have about her? Besides, Heath Ledger is actually a very proud person in his bones. I have gone off topic a bit. Let's get back to the topic. At about 9 o'clock in the morning, everything was ready. Lyman sat back behind the director's monitor, and the shooting began. Behind the temporary hut, Heath Ledger sat at the door, looking at the sheep in the sheepfold with an unreal look in his eyes, but his mind was not on it. He held a piece of wild grass in his hand and swayed unconsciously. After a long time, he sighed again and slowly looked towards the path up the mountain. Today, he didn't come again. He always waits like this. Don't doubt it, this is what is written in the script. Another week after the quarrel, Ennis lives alone as usual, but occasionally, he will think of those happy days. But these psychological activities need to be presented. Heath Ledger didn't feel this way. He relied entirely on his imagination and his acting skills to make up for this extremely simple shot. Go, prepare for the next one. Lyman shouted at the right time. Nothing makes a director happier than a smooth shooting. He is in a very good mood now. The worries accumulated from the delays in the past few days have been swept away. This shot is designed very neatly, but the actor's posture, eyes, and small movements are all natural and just right. Keep up this momentum, and try to shoot more today. Lyman turned to Heath Ledger and said, then went to discuss the arrangement of the next camera position with the cameraman. Heath Ledger got up with a calm face. He still has the temperament of Ennis. He is always difficult to get out of the role, especially when filming. Or he always brings the character's preferences into himself. Just look at his love history. Several girlfriends were developed when they played lovers in the play. After a long time, it is very easy to break up. After all, the love that is formed by the impulse of a momentary emotion is difficult to maintain once the passion is gone. The plan for Heath Ledger's scenes was to put them together and finish them in one day. As a result, they were finished smoothly in just one morning. Once this was over, although Lyman was happy, he couldn't relax. He kept urging the set and props team to work on other people's scenes. Heath Ledger was still chatting with his girlfriend. Lyman had been watching them filming. It was almost noon and they were going to have lunch. Some people were planning to go down the mountain first to reward themselves. Suddenly, they saw Jake Gyllenhaal coming out after changing his clothes, so they walked up. Jake, wait a minute. Jake Gyllenhaal looked back. Isn't this Lyman? Why did he call him? He was a little confused, but he still stopped. What's the matter, Mr. Lyman? I want to talk to you. He smiled. Me. Jake Gyllenhaal looked at him in confusion. The two of them didn't have much contact, and this was the first time he met the newly rising director in person. Lyman explained, it's like this, I'm going to shoot a new movie, and there's a role missing in it, and I want you to play it. Do you have any schedule recently? This was actually a sudden idea, because he suddenly thought of letting the two leading actors of Brokeback Mountain play a non-mainstream love movie together. There must be a good chemical reaction. However, in Macro Love, the main roles are still around the two female protagonists. Heath Ledger and Jack Gyllenhaal are supposed to be foils, and their sexual orientation has become normal. The slight difference is that the former's role is more or less heavy, while the latter's role is less. But please give a thumbs up for your own ideas. It's a screen frame again, and it's also a love movie. When it is shown together with Brokeback Mountain, the effect will definitely be great. Besides, with her image and temperament, she is also a good match with several leading actors. Thinking about it carefully, it's really suitable. The only problem is the schedule. What kind of play is it? What type? Which actors will be in it? Jack asked. As mentioned before, as a second-generation actor, he is not short of works to star in. It was a well-known director like Lyman who invited him. If it was an ordinary person, he would probably ask his agent to review it directly. Lyman did not hide it and said, it's a pure love movie. The confirmed actors are Sophie Marceau, Eva Green, and Heath Ledger. Chapter 213 Jack's Agent, Subscription Recommendation. Sophie Marceau, the famous French Rose, but who is Eva Green? I don't know her, so I'll leave her aside. As for Heath Ledger, Jack Gyllenhaal, who has been acting with him for so long, is naturally aware of his strength and has his own considerations in mind. However, what the hell is a love movie? He was able to take on Brokeback Mountain because of its special subject matter, and the charm and personality of the character himself are the kind he wants to challenge. But it doesn't mean that he likes to shoot love movies. Although he became popular in his early years by playing roles in such love movies, if he plays in them again now, wouldn't he go back to being a young idol? For so many years, he has been trying to get rid of the so-called title of teen idol. Besides, he has never been interested in such bloody stories. He is not short of money or reputation in the industry. His only pursuit now is good scripts and roles. Speaking of which, he has been doing this in recent years. However, looking at the achievements and reputation of director Lyman's past works, he dare not easily reject it. What if this love movie is not the love movie he imagined? As for what he imagined, aren't love stories all the same old stuff? Whether it's Hollywood, Japan, South Korea, or China, the favorite thing to play is always a rich boy falling in love with a poor girl, or the two people's identities and status are swapped. A toad eats swan meat or something like that. The most popular love movie Titanic at present cannot escape this kind of yai-like setting. It's just that James Cameron's performance perspective is a little different. Although the process is similar, the ending and the binding of the two people's love on a ship in distress have sublimated some styles. Looking through the phenomenon to the essence, it is still not a good match, but they still get together. Can you tell me about the story? If it's a bit offensive, forget it. Jake Gyllenhaal said. Lyman has no objection. It's not something that can't be said. Anyway, the script has been filed by Europa Films, so there is no fear of leakage. As for copyright, those big film companies have 10,000 ways to protect it. This is the world of capital, isn't it? Then, Lyman roughly talked about the creative ideas and the settings between the characters. Now, Jack's mind was in turmoil again. He was still thinking about how to refuse without seeming to hurt feelings, but now he didn't have to. This love movie was indeed not the love movie he imagined. It was interesting, and he liked it. He fiddled with the corner of his sleeve and asked, when will it start shooting? These days. Can you spare a schedule in September? Jack Gyllenhaal thought about it, and didn't know if he had any arrangements. Sorry, I need to ask my agent. I'll get back to you this afternoon, okay? Actors, sometimes they always take on some performances because of some personal relationships or the considerations of the agency. Time is indeed difficult to control. Lyman can understand. He nodded. In the afternoon, after a simple meal, Jack Gyllenhaal sat in his RV, called his agent, and told him about Lyman's invitation to him. The only shortcoming is that my role doesn't have many scenes. It's a supporting role. Lyman did mention this to him. The agent listened, but he was not dissatisfied. This is an invitation for Lyman Rath's new film. There are so many actors in Hollywood who are willing to accept the offer. I suggest you verbally agree immediately. I will adjust the schedule. The agent said on the other end of the phone. Jack, don't miss it. I know. I understand. I also want to act. Jake Gyllenhaal said. That's good. You should know how many actors he has made famous. Just like the movie Brokeback Mountain you are filming now, Heath Ledger's reputation in the industry was made by him. A Buried, a Fury, a Bad Guys. You see, this director seems to be able to handle any type of movie, and maybe this movie will be a big success again. Success. Who doesn't like it? Not to mention that Jake Gyllenhaal is also thinking about improving his reputation in the industry and impacting the Oscars. Jack, you entered this circle very early. You should understand, the agent continued, if you want to get the recognition of those mainstream authorities, in addition to practicing acting skills, you still need to rely on excellent works. A good enough movie is more helpful than your various independent productions. What you need most now is a movie with a huge influence and good box office to refresh your qualifications. Jake Gyllenhaal did not speak. He was originally a child star. Under the influence of his parents, he also understood what circle meant early, and he also had a good understanding of the operation mode of the Oscars. His sister is also an actor, and has won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actress. In fact, he himself knows that having acting skills in good works is called qualifications, and can win reputation. If it is a bad movie, who will pay attention to whether the actor's acting skills are good or not? I understand. Hearing this, the agent laughed. You promise him first. I will leave here immediately, and then I will try my best to get some good conditions on the set. Of course, the premise is that you can join the group smoothly. The phone was hung up. Jake Gyllenhaal rubbed his cheeks and tried to exhale. In the afternoon, the crew started working again. Lyman still stayed in the shade shed, occasionally chatting with Leon about the filming of the movie, but more often he did not disturb others' work and quietly looked around. Jake Gyllenhaal hurried over when there was no one around him before the filming started. Director Lyman, I asked. He smiled and continued, after I finish my part in Brokeback Mountain, I will have free time in the next few months. Lemon calculated the days. That will be soon. Director Lyman just said that it will be all done in about 2 days. Then you can save the time from the end of August to the end of September. Well, I have no problem, Jake Gyllenhaal said, and then politely said goodbye. His part was scheduled to be filmed in the afternoon, and he had to prepare immediately. Seeing that another main actor was successfully selected, Lemon was in a good mood. Compared with the selection of actors in Fury, his current situation is better. In the past 2 years, his performance and experience in the industry have made his persuasiveness and status rise. To put it bluntly, this is the reality of the entertainment industry. But in fact, there is nothing wrong with being realistic. Chapter 214 Negotiation Conditions. Subscription Recommendation. As dusk approached, a Mercedes stopped at the foot of the ranch. A middle-aged white man in formal clothes got out of the car. He was Mason Robert, Jack Gyllenhaal's agent who had come from afar. He set out from Los Angeles early in the morning. Although the drive was very tiring, he looked good. After all, his client had taken advantage of Lemon Rath's way. If the movie could really become a hit, it would be very good news for him. But the premise of all this was that the negotiation had to be successful first. He came here for this very reason. Standing outside the car, he immediately called Jack Gyllenhaal. "Yes, I'm here." After a while, Jack came down from the mountain. The two chatted for a while, then followed the address to a homestay and kept knocking on the door. Lemon opened the door and immediately understood what was going on. He smiled and said, "You two, come in and take a seat first." After Mason Robert came in, he took the initiative to introduce himself. "Hello, Mr. Lemon. I'm Jack's agent. Just call me Mason." Well, Mason is affiliated with the old agency William Morris, and it has some connection with CAA where Lemon is. To be more precise, the founder of CAA defected from William Morris and set up his own agency. Jack's image and temperament are very suitable for the role in my movie. "You are his agent, what do you mean?" Lemon didn't have so much time to be polite, so he got straight to the point. "Nice words, everyone likes to hear them." Although Jack Gyllenhaal has heard them since he was a child, he still has to distinguish who said them. At this moment, he couldn't hide his excitement when he heard Lemon say that he was very suitable for the role. He looked eagerly at the agent next to him, as if he was expecting him to agree quickly. Mason ignored Jack's eyes and said, "We are willing to act in Director Lemon's works. We are also very sincere in promoting cooperation." Everyone carried the sedan chair and fought back. Seeing that this person was so professional, Lemon didn't say any more nonsense. He took out a long printed contract, as well as the budget plan, tentative shooting schedule, and the site rental contract sent by Ryan, and put them in front of him, saying, "Since everyone is willing to cooperate, let's talk first." This, as if seeing the other party's confusion, Lemon explained, "I'm the director and producer of this project, and I have the right to determine the performance contract of the actors." It is said that he started to take charge of both positions as early as the filming of Bad Guys, but he only started to exercise some of the power of the producer now. In the past, with Ryan helping him, or George coming to negotiate, he didn't need to worry about it. But now, one is busy with the things on the set, and the other is flying around the world to check with theaters in various places about the overseas box office share of Bad Guys, including some offline copyright operations. They were all too busy, so he had to do it himself. Mason understood in his heart, and didn't say much. He read these things one by one, based on everything, and then according to his own judgment, he determined the next effort in preferential terms. Every qualified agent should strive for the best contract for his client. He still has this professional ethics. He read it slowly, and sorted out the documents carefully. When he looked up again, he was smiling again. "It seems that the project has been prepared, and we are also willing to act in it." Mason sorted out the wording and said, "And Jack's schedule is completely coordinated, and there will be no trouble, but..." He frowned and didn't say anything immediately, but first said to Jack Gyllenhaal on the side, "Jack, you go out first." Jack also understood that the next step would be the specific salary negotiation, and his presence would only get in the way. He nodded and greeted Lemon politely. "Director Lemon, I'm leaving first. You guys talk." Lemon waved his hand and gestured, "Okay." After the others left, Mason stopped being polite put on a smile, and pointed to the contract and said, "I also thought about related issues on the way here. I think $2 million US, paid in one lump sum, is very appropriate." The other party raised Jack's value as soon as he opened his mouth. Lemon was not annoyed by such nonsense and slowly retorted, "He's just a supporting role. The price is too high. The crew plans to shoot for a month, right? As for us, it's just 30 days, which is less than $70,000 US a day. Compared with Jack's current performance, I think it is very reasonable." Lemon was amused. Although he did not hate actors to fight for reasonable wages, he never thought of being harsh. Logically speaking, Lemon participated in the project investment, but he was not the one who paid the most. It was none of his business whether Jack's pay was much or little. Perhaps Europa Films and Paramount cared more than he did. However, the production budget of the film was only $10 million US, and he had reserved about $6 million US for salary. If Jack wanted to take $2 million, how would the fees and expenses of other cast and crew be calculated? What if the filming cost exceeded the upper limit? You know, it would be very troublesome to make additional investments if the production cost is not enough, which means that the distribution terms previously signed with the two distribution companies need to be renegotiated. If it really comes to that, and the crew runs out of money during filming, will he, the director, investor, and producer, have to pay out of his own pocket to make up for it? Think about it, isn't it impossible? He is not a saint, and it is obvious that he is taking advantage of others. Mason, as far as I know, Jake Gyllenhaal didn't get such a high salary for his role in Brokeback Mountain, and his role in this movie is even more important. That's different. Director Lemon, isn't his role in this movie a kind of qualification? As long as the response is good, it should be a matter of course for his salary to increase. What do you think? Of course, this is the industry rule that Hollywood abides by. But now we don't know when this movie will be released. Maybe my movie will be faster. What do you think? Lemon smiled. Lyman shoots slowly and edits even slower, so it's normal to delay for a year or two. Mason still didn't give up and continued to argue. He started acting in movies at the age of 11 and has filmed many works with impressive results and is very popular with audiences and fans. Director Lemon, Jack is a very good actor. Is there anyone more suitable for this role than him? After hearing this, Lemon was unwilling to give a good face anymore. Sometimes, some people just need a little deterrence. In other words, their extreme demands should be cut off directly. Chapter 215. The effect of stick and date is really good. Please subscribe and recommend. Anyway, since Jake Gyllenhaal wasn't around, there was no need to worry about face. The smile on Lemon's face gradually turned cold, and he slowly stated, "I remember that Jake Gyllenhaal hasn't starred in any mainstream commercial production since 2000. So far, the highest grossing movie is October Sky in 1999, and that movie wasn't starred by him alone." Hearing this, Mason Robert put away his relaxed posture and immediately tensed up. Lemon continued, "As for audience popularity, he hasn't appeared in the mainstream market for several years. Are you sure he still has much appeal? You should know better than me that movie fans are always forgetful. Maybe everyone's attention is more on Tobey Maguire now. Tobey Maguire is a star of the first 3 Spider-Man movies. With the super high popularity of the Little Spider, he has become a new generation of idol among teenagers." Mason Robert subconsciously wanted to refute and gain an advantage in the negotiation, but when it came to his mouth, he didn't know what to say, because what the other party said was all true. Although this is a bit cruel, it is the law of the market that the new generation replaces the old. Just like the idols or superstars that their generation admired when they were young, they have also been abandoned by the times. Lemon took out a relevant contract document from the drawer of the table, wrote down a number, and handed it to Mason Robert opposite him. "Of course. In fact, I don't pay much attention to market appeal when selecting actors. After so many years of polishing, I'm looking forward to what kind of charm Jack will burst out after returning to mainstream movies. But before that, he first needs an opportunity to return to the public eye. I think my movie should be good. Take a look at the terms first. While Mason was reading the relevant treatise one by one, Lyman did not relax and continued to pursue the victory and paint a big pie. You can also think about it from another angle. If the movie He Cooperated With Me This Time is released, and the performance is good, even if he can't rely on this to become popular again, at least his performance record will look better, right? At that time, his value will be based on the existing performance, and will he be more confident about increasing his salary? And if you still don't want to, I have nothing to say. I can only sincerely hope that we can have the opportunity to cooperate next time. Good words and bad words have been said, and the big stick has been given. The rest depends on the power of the sweet date. He said so much, of course. He wanted to lower the price. Oh, no, that's not called lowering the price. It's called giving reasonable salary conditions. After all, Mason, the agent, is like all qualified agents. He has always been serious about maximizing the benefits as much as possible. Mason Robert looked at the contract silently and didn't say anything. All of Lyman's arguments refuted some of the advantages he said one by one. Now his mood is not as calm as he seems. He just wants to raise it first, then slowly, step by step, and finally get a relatively good salary. As the saying goes, he wants both face and substance. Besides, there is nothing wrong with his negotiation style, but he underestimated Lyman. Perhaps he couldn't understand why a relatively young director, who had a talent for directing, was also so good at negotiation. He was like an old fox who had been through many battles. Mason didn't know how to respond to his clear and coherent words. At first glance, it seemed that they should sign the contract immediately, but if you think about it carefully, the conditions were all proposed by the other party, and they didn't have any room to fight for. Isn't this his dereliction of duty? Mason thought secretly, forcing himself to calm down first. After the big stick, the sweet date and the cake, Lyman played another reasonable card. A salary of $1 million seems a bit too little, but the budget of this movie is also limited. Let's add an additional condition. As long as the box office of the movie can exceed 100 million, we can take out a part of the profit as a box office reward. I guarantee that this part of the money will not be less than $500,000. As for how much it will be in the end, it depends on how high the box office can reach. But no matter what, we have this intention. Well, the salary condition given in the contract is $1 million. Mason was of course not satisfied after reading it. He was still thinking about how to raise the price. As a result, when the box office incentive came out, he found that he was actually a little tempted. After all, he originally thought of only $1.5 million. Perhaps in order to have a smooth cooperation, it is not impossible to reduce it. He thought for a while and finally nodded and said, "Okay, let's talk about it this way." Finally, after another half an hour of tug-of-war, the detailed actor contract was also determined. Jake Gyllenhaal's basic salary for participating in Macro Love is $1 million, which is paid into installments, before and after filming. An incentive clause is added. After the box office of the movie reaches 100 million in North America, a reward of $500,000 will be given. After that, for every additional 20 million, an additional reward of $100,000 will be given. However, the maximum limit is $1 million. In other words, after the box office of the movie in North America reaches 200 million, no matter whether there is room for growth or not, there is only $1 million as an incentive. After the two parties have negotiated on the salary, it did not end there. There are still many things to be determined for the treatment of actors. For example, the problems of the set, accommodation, travel, and cooperation with publicity. After all, in most cases, the fixed remuneration paid by the production company already includes the remuneration for all publicity activities related to the film. This part is also closely related to the actors. Because reasonable publicity is conducive to expanding popularity, and popularity is linked to future remuneration. Let's put it this way, Hollywood has its own set of industry calculation rules for many things. The so-called Super A stars, A-level stars, first tier, second tier and third tier minor actors, and minor supporting roles, can all be calculated based on their performance. On the second day, Lyman finally reached an agreement with Mason Robert on the performance contract and its guarantee conditions. This speed is considered fast. The project establishment of some Hollywood blockbusters can take more than half a year. Then, while the iron is hot, Jake Gyllenhaal and several industry lawyers were called in. Under their witness, Jack took a pen and signed his name in the contract. This matter is considered a done deal. The contract was made in duplicate, and each kept it well. Lyman then smiled at Jake Gyllenhaal and said, "If you have nothing else to do, you can join the group early." Chapter 216, Joining the Group. Subscription recommendation. When Mason Robert heard Lyman say that he wanted to join the crew early, he didn't want to stay any longer. He chatted with Jake Gyllenhaal for a few words, and then prepared to leave for Los Angeles. Before leaving, he said goodbye to Lyman. "Director Lyman, if you encounter any problems, perhaps William Morris would be a good choice. This is my personal phone number." Well, as an agency, William Morris is of course also jealous of a valuable director like Lyman. Lyman took it with a smile, but didn't say anything. CAA is still good to him at the moment, and he hasn't thought about changing his company. But it's not too much to keep a backup option, right? What if CAA has other ideas, and he is not happy? Then, Mason Robert waved, and left with his briefcase. Lyman and Jake Gyllenhaal were the only two people left in the room. He waved and said, "Here is the script. Take a look at it." Jake took the script and said quickly, "I will." A few days later, after saying goodbye to Lyman, Lyman took Heath Ledger and Michelle Williams with him. She played a supporting role, and her role was only slightly better than that of a minor character, but she was happy to do it. As the saying goes, men and women in love are understandable. Then there was Jake Gyllenhaal, and the group flew to Paris. It is said that Lyman had never left the country in his previous life, but he went abroad frequently in this life, traveling around France and the United States. When they arrived at the set in Annecy, Lyman arranged for the actors and the crew to meet. After all, many of these main creators were unfamiliar, so it was quite appropriate for them to promote their relationship before filming. Would it feel good to shoot like this? The meeting place was a hotel in the small town. It is obvious that strangers will get to know each other more easily after eating, drinking, and chatting. When Lyman arrived, everyone was already there. Sophie Marceau had also come from Paris. "Director Lyman." Everyone called out, and Lyman responded one by one. Of course, they were all familiar to him. Heath Ledger and Eva Green had worked together more than once, and their relationship was even closer. As for the remaining few people, they were also found by him personally. Soon, food and wine were served. After 3 rounds of wine, the atmosphere became a little lively. Everyone chatted, and Lyman also tried to explain his shooting ideas and the effects he wanted to achieve. Several people had read the script, and Sophie and Eva had been thinking about it for a longer time. On the next day, Macrolove officially started shooting. In the Fishka Castle, artificial warm color filters, soft white light, and light yellow light sources shone in the room together, creating a very warm picture. Different from some film directors who love natural light, or many literary and artistic directors who like to play with natural and realistic tones, it is a kind of documentary style lighting effect. Lyman prefers to use artificial lighting. He likes to use the changes in the temperature and brightness of light to contrast the emotions of the characters or the advancement of the plot. Thomas, the shot here needs to be a medium shot to capture the general layout of the room. This is a close shot. You will be in charge of this camera position later to capture the character. Lyman stated the shot requirements he needed and immediately said to the actors waiting on the side, "Okay, you can rehearse twice first. It will probably take a while." After giving the instructions, he shouted without looking back, "Run." Thomas had to put down the work in his hands and replied, "He just went down the mountain, and the generator we want has not been transported up yet." Lyman lowered his voice, raised his right hand, and stroked his forehead. "Thomas, have you communicated with the set crew? Ask them to cooperate with you when you move your camera later." "Yeah, I know. I'll do it right away." Lyman was about to give some more instructions when a stage worker next to him came over. "Director, do you think this plate is okay? Break it a little more and sprinkle some porridge on the ground to make it look more messy." After the scene was set up, Lyman directed the recording equipment to be positioned so that it would not be discovered by the camera. Then Jake Gyllenhaal, wearing a set of casual home pajamas, came in with a little makeup on his face, looking very weak. He lay on the bed as written in the script, frowning. The curtains and curtains around were quickly lowered, and the room suddenly became a little dark. "Get ready," Lyman shouted, and immediately returned to the director's monitor. Even though this was his 5th work, he still seemed very interested. The scene changed to France in 2003. A rich boy was permanently paralyzed in his lower limbs due to a car accident. His mother was going to hire a nanny to take care of her son's life. It was daytime, but it was raining heavily. Of course, it was not raining outside when shooting now, but as long as the computer was used to edit the relevant sound effects on the soundtrack during post-production, it would be fine. It is not a big deal. It can be said that with the continuous development of these technologies, the visual effects of Hollywood blockbusters will only get better and better, which is why they can be sold all over the world. This rich boy is naturally played by Jake Gyllenhaal, and he is playing opposite Eva Green. As for the other roles, such as the parents of the rich son, 2 French actors were also found to play them, recommended by Europa Films. They often deal with local actors, and are very clear about which actors are suitable for which roles, which also saves Lyman a lot of effort in selecting supporting actors. Although it is a group play of 4 people, in fact, only the 2 leading actors have more lines and shots, and the others are only responsible for simply entering the camera, making movements and expressions, and introducing the identity of the characters. Perhaps this is the first time that Eva has truly played the leading role. She is a little nervous. The effect of private rehearsals has not been shown at all. She even forgot the lines repeatedly. On the other hand, Jake Gyllenhaal, who is used to acting in dramas, has completely polished his acting skills. Whether it is his expression or lines, he has grasped them very well. Lyman didn't think anything of it. After all, it was the first day, and it was normal to have an adaptation period. After all, Eva is just a newcomer, and her previous roles were not as important and difficult as this one. Taking Eva aside, Lyman encouraged her, "You don't have to be so nervous. Relax first. Think about your state during rehearsal. This scene is actually nothing. You said you want to be a good actor, so you have to let go. Understand? Relax a little. You are actually very good, and have the potential to act." After Lyman's comfort, Eva gradually relaxed her tense emotions, and the filming of the movie got on track. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 217 Filming, Subscription Recommendation. In detail, Eva Green has always been a very talented actor. Her debut work The Dreamers in her previous life directly amazed Cannes. She was originally a professionally trained actress, and she was not lacking in acting skills and methods. And to be honest, the role in Macro Love is not very challenging. It is supposed to tell a very ordinary story, and what sells is the plot, tears and warmth. There are not many explosions in acting. Therefore, when the actors get into the state a little bit, they are not nervous, and the filming is very smooth. This scene, plus the time for setting, makeup and scheduling, the entire castle bedroom scene took a total of 4 hours, which is faster than the scheduled shooting plan. If it continues at this speed, the whole play may not take a month to finish. Don't think that a movie will always take several months to shoot or something. That is because there are many scenes, many characters, or many shots that require special effects. Generally speaking, a normal feature film only takes 1 or 2 months, or even less. For example, the movie Saw shot by James Wan in his previous life took only 18 days from project establishment to shooting, and then to completion. After finishing the castle scene, the crew immediately set off to a B&B in a small town at the foot of the mountain to continue shooting the scenes of Eva Green's family. While it was still dark, they quickly shot a few more groups. After dark, there were still 2 night scenes. It was already the end of August. The temperature in Annecy was around 25 degrees during the day and only more than 10 degrees after nightfall. But including Heath Ledger, all the actors who had scenes to play were wearing single clothes or short sleeves because they were shooting a scene in midsummer. especially Eva Green and Sophie Marceau, the two girls. They were still wearing the kind of off-shoulder dresses. Although they were dressed very beautifully and were eye-catching enough, but at this temperature, and there was a breeze blowing from time to time around, people like Lyman who were wearing two clothes felt a chill on their necks. But they had to pretend to be calm. Even though they had goosebumps from the cold, they were calm on the surface, chatting happily and drinking cold drinks. Finally, they went outside to take a walk and enjoy the breeze. Actors should be dedicated to their work, and there is no such thing as whether they can endure hardship or not. As for Lyman, he was not deliberately cruel. Almost every 10 minutes of shooting, he would take the initiative to call for a stop and then ask the stagehands to bring coats and hot water to warm the stomach. It was not until the evening that everyone finished shooting and went back to the set to eat. Only a few stagehands were left here to guard the filming equipment. After a simple meal, they immediately came back to work. Night scenes are very challenging for lighting technicians, and several experienced lighting team members finally had the opportunity to show their talents. When the camera swept over, the image was still clear. Heath Ledger wore a pair of glasses, his hair was slightly combed back, he tied a tie awkwardly, and picked up a briefcase to act like a clerk who had just graduated and started working. Photography in place. Recording okay. Action. The script supervisor had just finished speaking. Heath Ledger then walked into the camera. Good morning. Hello. He kept greeting people, lowering his head slightly. People were coming and going around him. All of them were employees of the company. As a newcomer, he was still a little reserved. It was not until he reached his seat that he slowly breathed a sigh of relief, sorted out the messy documents on the desk one by one, and took a cup to make a cup of coffee. Click. Lyman nodded, very satisfied. Heath Ledger was still as stable as ever, and he showed the temperament of a young man entering an unfamiliar workplace vividly. He also added many small details, which were quite lifelike. Whether it was constantly lowering his head to greet people, or breathing a sigh of relief after sitting in his seat, there was a shadow of advancing the character's personality. The shooting continued. Hart, the manager is calling you. A minor actor said the line. Hart was also the name of Heath Ledger in the play. Oh, okay, I get it. Heath Ledger stood up in panic and accidentally knocked over the cup again. Coffee dripped onto his pants and shoes along the table, and Heath Ledger was busy wiping it with a tissue. After a few seconds, he was speechless again. It was over. These were his new pants and leather shoes. The slide slowly moved forward, and the lighting technician, sound assistant, set designer, cameraman and other staff kept walking outside the camera composition, following the actors. At this moment, the crew's camera range was a real workplace, and Heath Ledger was the center point here. The line of sight followed his footsteps, and the camera also panned. Thomas held a camera alone, acting as a close-up camera, shooting close-ups. He walked to the office with the manager's sign and knocked twice. Come in. It was a female voice. Heath Ledger didn't think much, and immediately opened the door. A woman in a formal dress and light makeup sat behind the desk. When she heard the voice, she smiled at the camera. The smile was very shallow, and she knew it was a polite smile, but it was so charming. This role was naturally played by Sophie Marceau. Even though she is 37 years old, the years have not taken away her beauty. On the contrary, she has become more charming and full of temperament after the erosion of time. Especially this workplace outfit. I have to say, it is really beautiful. Hart was amazed for a moment. His eyes moved slightly, and then he immediately lowered his head. Excuse me, manager, what do you want to talk to me about? Okay, I'll come. Lyman's face was very happy. He has never been worried about Sophie Marceau's acting skills, but he has some small concerns about the temperament of the character. This shot, or the whole movie, should be the most outstanding of the two heroines. They must successfully release their charm, and not be overshadowed by others. Eva? They are people who spend every day together. Lyman knows how to shoot her best, focusing on the eyes and half-body shots, making the angle of view larger, and rarely or trying not to use macro close-up shots of the face. But even so, he still thinks Sophie will be more amazing. Her smiles and frowns seem to have returned to the feeling of watching Fang Fang when she was younger. Natural and straightforward, it is difficult to get away from her figure. In this scene, Heath Ledger leads the front part, but Sophie controls the back part completely. The subtle feeling under the camera is vivid. You two performed very well. Keep up the momentum. Lemon stood behind the director's monitor and gave the two a thumbs up. Heath Ledger smiled and said nothing. Sophie came because she saw the work was good. She was not very familiar with Lemon. At best, she thought he was very talented. She smiled without any embarrassment. Chapter 218 Filming 2. Annecy, as a remote town, has always been hard to have a sense of existence. From economy to culture, from entertainment to sports, it is difficult to find any obvious characteristics or celebrities. Except for the locals, perhaps many French people have hardly heard of this place. So when a film crew came here to shoot, the residents of the town were all surprised. After the surprise, there was surprise and expectation. How could you have the chance to see a star in this remote place? It was okay at the beginning of the preparations, and the actors were not in the group, so everyone just looked at it and passed by. But when it was really time for shooting, it was different. "Hey, Alan, come and help." Thomas carried the camera and said to the person who was standing there with nothing to do and looking around. Alan was a set designer. Although his work had been completed, he still ran over to help carry it at this moment, feeling quite depressed. After placing the camera in the designated position, he turned around and looked at the residents who were peeking around. Each of them had a curious look on their faces, and they were circling around the crew with a look of inquiry in their eyes. Fortunately, the mayor said not to interfere with the filming of the crew, and these residents also obeyed very well. After a while, the actors arrived. The most eye-catching one was of course Sophie Marceau. This is the star figure that the French had heard of the most. People's eyes fell on her, and they were talking about her. There was no malice in those eyes. After all, for them, it was always a novelty to see the stars of Lyman in another way. And for the parties involved, it was not an unbearable problem. She had long been accustomed to such eyes, and she took the initiative to wave to people and greeted them warmly. It was in such an atmosphere that Macrolove continued to start filming. The residents of the town were also happy to act as passers-by background boards to cooperate with the filming. In addition, there were more residents who did not participate in it and did not miss any opportunity to get close to the crew. They took the initiative to come to help, carrying costumes and props so that they could observe how the movie was shot up close, and they could also talk to real stars and ask for autographs. As for the crew, they only need to pay a little labor fee to get a large number of laborers, so the speed of filming is much faster than expected. Originally, they planned to stay here for half a month to complete all the main filming scenes, but it only took 10 days to complete the filming. When the crew was about to leave, the residents of the town were still reluctant to let them stay for 2 more days. After all, they had never been so lively before. Not to mention filming a movie, many people had to go to the neighboring province to watch a real football game. After the crew of Macrolove left completely, everyone's life returned to the peacefulness of the past. But the mayor was not idle. He also planned to develop this place into a tourist area. The castle was their trump card for development. It happened that a movie was shot there. When it was released in the future, maybe they could brag about it and get some fame. Alas, there was no way. These days, the French economy is not very prosperous, and the welfare benefits of citizens are too high. When the two are compared, the expenditure is not proportional to the income. If we don't think of some ways to generate some income, what hope is there in this life? Are we all waiting for national relief? Next, the crew went back to Paris. They shot indoor scenes in the studio under Europa Films. After the large team settled down, they immediately started to set up the scene. On this day, Lemon was directing the workers to place props. Ryan walked over quickly. "Lemon, Luc Besson is here to visit." "Okay, I got it." After that, Lemon gave a few more instructions to the team and followed Ryan out of the studio. From a distance, Luc Besson was seen walking towards this side with a small belly and a cigarette in his hand. "Why did you think of coming to see me?" The two shook hands in a friendly manner, and Lemon said with a smile, "It just so happens that I have nothing to do today. Come and take a look. This is not a place to talk either." Lemon led the way and returned to the set with Luc Besson and Ryan. It happened that the venue had been set up. Lemon apologized and said he wanted to shoot, and Luc Besson also expressed his understanding. After finishing a scene, the actors went back to remake up, and the staff was busy resetting the scene. Luc Besson sat on a chair nearby, flipping through the storyboard script, and nodded in the direction of several actors, asking Lemon, "Where did you find the actors? They look good. Just happened to meet them." Lemon smiled. The other party was of course talking about Jake Gyllenhaal. Except for him, Luc Besson already knew the others. The current shooting can be so fast, and it is inseparable from his outstanding performance. Of course, the actors in each crew are the same. The reason why he is mentioned separately is nothing more than Jake Gyllenhaal is a new actor in the crew, and Luc Besson does not know him. I'm more touched by his performance. Although the core of the movie is to tell a good story, it is undeniable that the actors are also the most important part of it, and even in certain circumstances, they are more important than the plot itself. For example, Lyman, The Professional, directed by Luc Besson. The story is a good story, but the superb performance of the actors also adds a lot of color. Of course, Jane Reno has always been Luc Besson's ace partner. The two have filmed countless works together. It can be said that he is always asked to play a suitable role. The relationship is just like that of Lemon and Heath Ledger now. They all met when they were little and established a deep friendship. As a director, Luc Besson felt warm in his heart when he saw such a scene. Thinking about the purpose of coming today, he asked with interest, "Lemon, if you have time, can you come and help me? I have prepared a project recently." "Why, have you decided to stop directing?" Lemon teased. "Haha, it's funny to think of this. This guy once boasted in front of the media that he would only make 10 movies in his life. As a result, when Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets was released, it was already the 17th feature film. He slapped himself in the face. This also proves to us that making movies is really addictive and can't be quit. No way. This is my 9th film. Taxi doesn't count. I'm just a screenwriter and producer, not a director. How can it be counted on me?" Luc Besson was speechless. "I can only blame myself for being stupid and talking nonsense. Now I regret it very much." "Well, you still know how to play." Chapter 219. Harsh words. Please subscribe and recommend. It seems that many directors like to set a flag. Michael Bay, who was recognized by netizens as a great director born on the day when the comet hit the earth, has repeatedly made a bold statement: "I will never direct Transformers again." He said this when he finished filming Transformers 2, and then he also said it when he finished filming Transformers 3. As a result, he has filmed up to the 5th film, and Cameron has said more than once that Avatar 2 will be released soon. As a result, it is 2020, and there is still no accurate news. It is always the next year and the next year. As for what Hayao Miyazaki said, "I will retire after filming this movie," Big Brother Cheng said, "This is my last action movie," and the director genius Quentin also said something similar to Luc Besson, "I will stop after filming 10 movies." However, his speed of filming is far from 10, and this guy has already reached the end, and it is time to retire. If you count the movies he wrote or produced, it will be even worse. Moreover, he has been doing similar work as a producer and screenwriter in recent years, and he hasn't made a formal film for 4 or 5 years. If you think about it carefully, he did this partly to cultivate suitable director talents for Europa films. After all, unlike ordinary French local film companies, this guy likes to support and produce films with English dialogues whenever he has the chance, and do his best to resist the invasion of Hollywood, and even invade their headquarters. This commercial approach has undoubtedly brought a lot of convenience to Europa films, and also made its production team Lanoop very international. Although he broke his promise in the end, in essence, Luc Besson has always been an old naughty boy who is passionate about filmmaking. Okay, I'll help you with some reference when I have time. Hearing the promise, Luc Besson was also very happy. As the two chatted, Luc Besson thought of the Saw that Lemon invested in. He thought that the main audience of the movie was American moviegoers, and if he wanted to show it there and share the profits, he would need to register a shell company similar to Man Studio. So he suggested, "Lemon, are you going to register your company registered in the United States under our branch?" If necessary, I can help you contact the relevant department and help you get it done. Originally, Man Studio took this approach in France. They were responsible for all financial matters, and we only checked the accounts here. Faced with Luc Besson's kindness, Lyman smiled and declined. Forget it, my broken company can just find an office location to complete the handover, no need to worry so much. But who is Luc Besson? He is an insider and the president of a film distribution company. When he heard this, he knew that he had his own plans. Hearing that Lyman was unwilling to hand over the US affairs to Europa Films, he asked softly, "Do you want to cooperate with Paramount Pictures?" Lyman smiled non-committally, neither saying yes nor no. Luc Besson frowned secretly, thinking that others really had such an idea. While he understood it in his heart, he still felt a little unhappy. He also thought that Paramount Pictures had secretly contacted him and offered some conditions. You know, isn't the affiliation a disguised way of showing the relationship between the two companies? If they are not close, who would be willing to hand over the internal operation and financial relationship of the company to others? I heard that Paramount Pictures has made a big move recently. It seems that their company's top executives have been in contact with DreamWorks. Maybe. He glanced at Lyman and said, if DreamWorks joins Paramount, there will definitely be big moves. Compared with Spielberg, how much resources can your studio get? Finally, he sighed meaningfully. It's better to be the head of a chicken than the tail of a phoenix. Lyman naturally understood this truth. Otherwise he would not have rejected the good intentions of Europa Films. As for his idea, how could Luc Besson think of it? Besides, it is better to continue to be affiliated with Europa Films than to be affiliated with Paramount. At least, the strength of Europa Films satellite companies has always been the strongest. As for Paramount, there are countless small film companies supported by it, not to mention that he knows that DreamWorks is really joining Paramount. Unfortunately, with the vigorous development of his career, an idea called ambition, but actually aspiration occupied Lyman's mind. This time, he has other plans and intentions, to create a real film company with production capabilities, rather than a shell like Man Studio. Looking further ahead, if he can obtain distribution channels, the next American version of Europa may not be impossible. After all, theater companies are a group of vested interests. Don't they need excellent film sources? Once his company can continue to produce relatively good works, who can't cooperate with it? The so-called distribution channels are mostly established step by step in this way, and I have never heard of any company completely monopolizing this aspect. Of course, just as the United States is the sphere of influence of the 6 major Hollywood, sometimes, film companies that cannot withstand suppression, hard power and even publicity competitions, and end up in a dismal way, are a lesson for the past. For example, DreamWorks. Spielberg, like every great director, set up a film company. It's a pity that he is about to declare failure and is still struggling. Looking back at history, the quality of the films they produced is actually very high, such as Shrek the Monsters, Gladiator, Transformers, and How to Get Away with Murder. They are either well-received works, Oscar-winning hits, or they sell very well at the box office, but even so, they still cannot escape the sanctions of the 6 major companies. Their fate was also strangled by the neck. Their overseas channels could not be established no matter what. Only Lionsgate in the entire Hollywood later successfully took this step, and Lionsgate really has no shortage of money. The investment shareholders behind it are all very powerful European companies. Think about it, if there is no overseas channel, no matter how you jump around, you are just working for others. Compared with the investment cost of each movie, which is so high and risky, if you really lose money, you still have no overseas channels to recover the blood. One wrong step will lead to a bottomless abyss. Later, Spielberg also figured it out. They are all working, why can't they be more comfortable? They work so hard, but they don't earn as much as when they were just directors. As you all know later, this acquisition was not completed by Viacom until 2005, and the DreamWorks brand was automatically acquired by Paramount Pictures. Chapter 220, Filming completed, Subscription recommendation request. Luc Besson thought he guessed correctly, but he left without understanding anything. When he left, he asked Lyman when the film would be finished, so that he could arrange the schedule. Of course, Lyman said that it would be done by the end of September, but in fact, it would not take that much time if the filming continued at this speed. The studio of Europa Films on the outskirts of Paris. Eva Green, wearing a gorgeous evening gown, stood at the door of the cocktail party. Inside, there were men and women dancing to their heart's content, and it was very lively under the light and music. This scene was the last few shots of McCrow, which was shot faster than expected. It was only September 20th when the filming came to this point. Of course, there are reasons for such a fast shooting. First, the crew's preparatory work was very sufficient. There was a plan to follow during the shooting. There were no accidents and no impact on the shooting progress. Second, after the actors entered the state, the number of NGs during shooting was significantly reduced, and basically 1 or 2 shots were enough. Third, of course, Lyman had a complete storyboard script and knew what kind of film he wanted, so he hardly shot any extra shots. Jack Gyllenhaal was also dressed in a formal suit, sitting in a wheelchair, pushed by a servant. He looked at Eva Green at the door with a smile on his face. To be honest, his role basically has no body language, and all expressions are used to depict emotions and the joys, sorrows, anger, and happiness of the characters, which is really challenging. This is also the reason why Jack Gyllenhaal followed. It's a pity that this story will never be the most happy ending in the eyes of the audience. The following shots are also Jack Gyllenhaal's sincere wishes to Eva Green. I don't want you to miss the possibility. I just want you to have a new beginning. Your life is still full of infinite possibilities, which is a luxury. I feel a little comforted when I think that I can still bring you some possibilities. You only have one life. You should live it very wonderfully. Yes, he is a half paralyzed person, and there are many things he can't give. The theme that the movie wants to explore is also the respect for love and humanity. Love does not necessarily mean getting married, having children, and living together happily. Love can also be a past, a trace. Love is always a tricky proposition. In the end, Eva Green laughed and cried. Under the camera, that sadness is enough to tell too much. Click. Lyman smiled and said with ease, I declare that McCrow has been completed. The staff were naturally very happy and began to clean up the set happily. And Eva Green seemed to be still immersed in the emotions of the character, standing there blankly. Lyman walked over, patted her shoulder affectionately, and asked, why are you still sad? We've finished filming. I don't know. I just suddenly remembered something and couldn't control myself. She said so with all her strength. Perhaps this shot was the one in which she was most emotionally involved in the entire movie. For a moment, she really felt abandoned. She swallowed down the sadness and pretended not to care. Fortunately, this is a movie. When do you think it will be released after it's finished? Eva asked again. It won't take long. I plan to release it in November. There will be Thanksgiving at that time, and the audience base will be larger, and the audience will be wider. Lyman finally explained and added. Speaking of which, Lyman's budget for the McCrow project was about $10 million, but the filming went so smoothly and was completed ahead of schedule, so he saved a lot. Until now, it has been completed and only cost more than $8 million. Even if you add the later narration insertion, music, editing, copying, etc., it is estimated that it will not be spent all. Think about it, with such a trouble-free director like him, Europa Films really picked up a treasure. Jake Gyllenhaal has also become familiar with Lyman these days. Although he is a second generation in the industry and has rich acting experience, he mostly relies on the personal connections his parents have accumulated in the past and the help of his agency William Morris to get work. In addition, he is low-key by nature and doesn't like hype. Sometimes, his market appeal can't be improved. After this filming, in addition to the deserved salary, he still wants to maintain a good relationship with director Lyman. After all, as agent Mason Roberts said, this person is in the rising period of his career and is good at promoting people. It's okay if there is no opportunity to make friends with him, but it would be a pity if he missed the opportunity. So, while everyone was packing up and preparing to close the warehouse, seeing that there was no one around Lyman, he quietly went over to greet him. Director Lyman, I hope I can have the opportunity to work with you next time. Lemon looked at his respectful face and said with a smile, "As long as you don't mind the small role." "How could that be?" "In the future, as long as there is a need, just call me," Jack Gyllenhaal said quickly. Of course, it is unknown how much truth there is in this statement. However, Lemon also plans to set up a formal production company in North America, and Saw is the company's first project. Although Jack Gyllenhaal has not received much attention from the audience, he is one of the more recognized ones in the circle. His acting skills are good, and his salary is very affordable compared to those traffic stars. In addition, his professional attitude is also beyond reproach. After so many days of filming, he was neither late nor left early, and basically followed the crew. Lemon still had a good impression of him. Lemon thought for a while, and gave a promise. "Let's put it this way. I may not have a role suitable for you in my future movies, but as long as it is a movie project that I'm related to, and I can get involved, I will keep an eye out for you if there is anything suitable for you. Of course, it depends on your own wishes, whether to act or not. You don't have to consider me, or worry too much. Thank you, director." Jack Gyllenhaal was overjoyed. He really didn't expect Lemon to be so easy to talk to. Yes, if he could look at Heath Ledger, he should know that Lemon has always been the kind of person who is more willing to go with his heart. He will treat whoever treats him well. He will not let anyone down who has done him a favor. Just like Thomas, he has never forgotten the favors he received in the past. He originally wanted to train him to be a director, but he didn't want to, so it was left unfinished. Now he is still his full-time cameraman. And Ryan, they are old friends. He was the one who cared the most about him when he came here in a daze. Even when he became successful, he always wanted to take him with him and support him to become a producer. To be honest, this guy has no talent as a director. Otherwise, with his ability to write scripts, it is not impossible for him to be able to take charge of a project by himself if he gave him a good idea. Chapter 221 Show Your Skills. Subscription recommendation request. After spending more than 2 hours loading all the filming equipment onto the truck and sealing up the set, Lemon told everyone about the dinner party at a certain hotel. Was it a wrap-up party? Besides, Lemon still had some ideas to win over. 2/3 of these behind-the-scenes personnel were from Europa Films. However, after so many works, both parties were very familiar with each other. Lemon was thinking about whether he could establish a good cooperative relationship with these people, so that he could use them, even if he didn't cooperate with Europa Films. After all, a production team with tacit understanding in filming is sometimes more valuable than a person with strong individual abilities. The actors went back to their hotels after filming the movie. Lemon also had to go to Europa Films to talk to the relevant person in charge about the copy, and also go there to register the right to use the set. In the evening, after the dinner party, everyone went their separate ways. Next, it took about a week to fine-tune the first version of the movie and let Ryan and Thomas take care of the rest in advance, but Lemon bought a plane ticket and flew to Los Angeles. It was because he also needed to keep an eye on Saw. In the post-production editing room of Warner Studios, James Wan showed great enthusiasm for Lemon's arrival. The film was shot as early as the beginning of September, and he has been busy editing for these days. If someone with experience comes, he can also help with reference. Soon, James Wan and Ray Wan will put the sample film into the player. On the bright screen, Jason Statham looked at Hugo Weaving helplessly, begging not to kill him. In the end, he still couldn't make up his mind to saw off his leg, but Hugo Weaving picked up the pistol on the ground and shot him in the shoulder. After falling down, Hugo Weaving shouted that he had done it as required, and the door of the basement was opened smoothly. He dragged his body and crawled hard. Not long after, Jason Statham woke up. At the critical moment, Hugo Weaving held back and didn't kill him. But when he saw that he was about to escape, he collapsed again. He shouted loudly not to abandon him. Hugo Weaving made a promise that he would find the police to rescue him as soon as he got out. Soon, the only thing left in the small basement bathroom was Jason Statham, who was handcuffed to the water pipe and a corpse on the ground. Suddenly, he seemed to see the most terrifying thing in the world. The corpse actually crawled out of the pool of blood. Shaking his head, he closed the door again in his most desperate eyes. This section was well edited, with a brisk rhythm and delicate split screens. It seemed quite tight between the back and forth perspectives. Logically speaking, it should be the climax of the movie. As a result, Jigsaw, played by J.K. Simmons, just appeared and didn't say a word. He closed the door too neatly, the picture suddenly turned, and the camera inexplicably pulled into a medium shot, and then it was gone. Is this the complete film? Lemon looked at the screen, that was no longer lit, and was quite annoyed. Well, how is it? James Wan asked expectantly. What did you think of the last part? Leave some blank space, to give the audience some room for imagination. But, you laid so much groundwork in the beginning, isn't it just for this final character reversal? The plot has come to this point, and if the tone is not raised a little, won't it seem inconsistent, and the audience will be unhappy? Is it bad? James Wan asked weakly. Of course. Then, Lemon watched the film again. When watching it again, he kept pointing out some small problems, starting from 9 minutes and 3 seconds. The dialogue should be edited more refined, don't analyze everything, and leave some suspense for the audience. Here at 30 minutes and 58 seconds, this shot is too redundant, and the play seems too boring, and not tight enough. And at the end, you use the color tone well, but you need to add some frontal shots of Jigsaw, and give a close-up when the door is closed at the end, and try to focus the perspective on Jigsaw. Then, several people watched the sample film several times again, busy from early morning to more than 5 in the afternoon, and had lunch in the editing room. Finally, the original film was screened again. Even Ray Nava, the pseudo-producer, could feel that the rhythm of the film had become much smoother. As for director James Wan, he certainly didn't want to change it. After half a month of post-production, he wanted to incorporate all his filming ideas into it. But in fact, he was not ignorant of appreciating movies. He also keenly felt that these subtle changes did add a lot of color to the movie and made the visual experience more shocking. Thank you for your help. After watching the edited film, James Wan said sincerely, he now understood why other people's films always achieved good results. The sensitivity of the editing was different. No, this movie is still directed by you. My contribution is nothing. Although everyone likes to hear good words, James Wan's efforts cannot be easily erased. This Saw was originally someone else's idea. Many of the shots were very imaginative, especially the shaping of the horror atmosphere, which was really desirable. His role was nothing more than icing on the cake. Did you find someone to do the soundtrack? Lemon asked suddenly, pressing his head with his fingers. In the future, this film will be well received, and the wonderful background music is also a plus point. Well, I've hired someone to do it, but I haven't found anyone who is suitable yet. James Wan sighed and said, please keep an eye on this aspect. There is nothing Lemon can do to help with this matter. After all, each director has different aesthetic preferences. Besides, he doesn't understand music, and he has always outsourced the production to Hans Zimmer's team, and he chooses it completely, based on his feelings. If the music given by others sounds suitable, it will generally be fine. After editing the film, Lemon called Shirley Lansing, the CEO of Paramount Pictures, to inform her, so that she can prepare for the early promotion of the film. Shirley Lansing didn't pay much attention to this project. She was more concerned about Lemon himself. Upon hearing this, she also said that she would find someone to arrange the corresponding matters. Initially, it is scheduled to be released in October, and they will have to hold a meeting to discuss the specific date. After hanging up the phone, there was nothing else that needed him. Thinking about the agreement he had made with Warner, Lemon couldn't wait to finalize it. He had a lot to do this time. In addition to Saw, the $1 Million Baby project could also be preliminarily agreed on the general shooting process after he finished filming McCraw Love. So, after leaving Warner Studios, he hurriedly made an appointment with Warner the next day. Chapter 222 Warner, Subscription Recommendation. After discussing with Warner, the meeting time was set at 2 p.m. The location was naturally the headquarters. After lunch, when it was almost 1 o'clock, Lemon called his agent Johnson from his mansion in Beverly Hills and asked him to pick him up. After getting in the car, Johnson asked, "Where are we going?" "Warner headquarters." "Oh." Johnson has always been very supportive of Lemon, and he is very good at doing things. He never asks nonsense questions. After knowing the destination of this trip, he didn't ask what he was going to do. He started the car directly, released the clutch, and set off for Burbank. It was only about half an hour's journey to Warner's headquarters building. The two got out of the car and greeted the girl at the front desk. She also knew that the other party had an appointment, so she immediately took the two people to the 6th floor by elevator. They took them all the way to the sign with the president's office, and then politely said goodbye. Johnson knocked on the door very considerately, and an assistant secretary came out. After the few people went in, the outermost floor was where the assistant secretary was just staying. Then they went through a hall and turned a corner inside to find Barry Mear's office. The assistant secretary went in first to talk and then opened the door to welcome Lyman in. Johnson did not go in. He had to wait outside. After entering, Lyman found that in addition to Barry Mear, there was another person sitting in the office. As if he felt that Lyman was confused, Barry Mear introduced, "This is our company's production director, Michael Clow." "Hello." Lyman stretched out his hand and greeted him. "Director Lyman, I have heard of you for a long time." The other party stood up and shook his hand while saying enthusiastically, "If you don't know, you might think that they have a very good relationship." But Lyman knew very well that this was the first time he had met this person. Barry Mear is almost 60 years old, but his face has few wrinkles. He looked at Lyman with his eyes and said, "Have you finished shooting your new film?" "Yes." After the few people sat down, Lyman didn't like to play tricks. He immediately said, "I came here this time to talk about the project you mentioned. Adapted from a novel?" "Yes, we should talk in detail." Barry Mear sat in the boss chair. On the wall behind him hung a realistic oil painting of a wheat field. It was unknown which famous artist it was. Although Lyman didn't know much about it, he still had some appreciation ability. He didn't know how much the painting was worth, but he knew that when Barry Mear leaned against the painting and faced the guests, he would create a situation of overwhelming power. In addition, the sofa he was sitting on was a little short, so Lyman instantly felt that the other party's figure was taller. Lyman felt a little funny in his heart. Why do so many people like to play this tune? Originally, when he met with Paramount president Shirley Lansing, he also had such a sense of inferiority. Not long after, Barry Mear spoke again. "What do you think about this project? It's a good story, but it doesn't have many commercial element, and it's impossible to describe the life of a boxer as extensively as Rocky. Even if it does, it can't surpass Rocky. My idea is to pick out a certain aspect of it for deep processing, starting from the awards season. First win word of mouth, and then consider the market. This is also the path taken by $1 Million Baby in the previous life, and Lyman has used it." "Which aspect?" "Material selection. The novel mostly writes about the stories of those who are not satisfied with the boxing world. We will start from this aspect and focus on the life of the boxer after he is injured and retired. Although this may not be so pleasing, it can better establish the character." Barry Mear nodded subconsciously. He didn't know much about movies, but he knew directors. The words of a director like Lyman, who already has achievements, are clear and convincing. After all, even the distribution plan has been considered, and it is obvious that a comprehensive plan has been made for the project. He looked at Michael Clow, who understood immediately and then asked, "So, Director Lyman, what are your directing conditions?" "I can give up the basic salary, but I want a share of the investment." After this, the two people on the other side were not surprised. Obviously, they had inquired about some information before inviting Lyman to direct the movie. "How much?" Michael Clow asked again. 40%. Lyman was not polite. Of course, he thought it was quite reasonable. From his point of view, the investment in this movie was not that high, and the profit would not be too high. He wanted to take it for the sake of winning awards, brushing up his qualifications, and because he really liked the story. With his current worth, it is completely in line with the market to ask for a basic salary of $9 million to $10 million plus a share of the North American box office. With this conversion, he will pay a part of it, which is about 40%. After Lyman finished speaking, Barry Mear didn't do anything, but Michael Clow couldn't sit still. If the project is really operated in this way, for Warner, the pie that can be shared is not ideal. Moreover, this was originally the script collected by their production department, which was under his jurisdiction. Director Lyman, isn't this condition a little high? He said tactfully. Well, what do you think? Lyman didn't answer and threw the question to the other party, wanting to hear what conditions Warner was going to offer to invite him. After all, it was Barry Meir who first found him at the beginning of this project. Lyman was not the active party, and he was not the one who rushed to ask for cooperation. Okay, I agree. After a long time, it was Barry Meir who spoke. As soon as he spoke, Michael Clow was shocked again. Of course, Barry Meir's thoughts were not something that others could guess. He didn't take such a small project seriously from the beginning. A mere 10 or 20 million, even if it was all lost, Warner could fully afford it. What he valued was that he could win over Lyman through this cooperation, or see if the other party's directing methods could control the more important film plans he had in mind. All along, DC comic adaptation was the blueprint he wanted to complete the most. He had been planning the reboot of Batman and Superman for a long time, but what he lacked was talent that could grasp the general direction of the filming. Moreover, this kind of big production that could easily involve hundreds of millions of dollars, especially since Batman and Superman had already failed once, could not withstand another failure. Even if he was the CEO of Warner, he did not dare to make a decision lightly. As for Lyman, the successive successes in recent years also made him cast his eyes. Now it depends on whether he can bear it. Chapter 223 Upper Class Subscription Recommendation. Barry Meir thought for a moment and looked up at the young man sitting on the sofa. Lyman was still sitting casually, leaning back comfortably, looking at the layout of the office, as if thinking about something. These were not very polite actions, but they also showed that this man did not have a strong desire to cooperate with Warner. Come to think of it, whether it was Paramount Pictures or Europa, they would definitely not give up on a director like him who could make profits. Isn't it the same idea that he wanted to win him over? As for what he said, the conditions seemed tough, as if he didn't take Warner seriously. But Barry Meir had been through a lot of ups and downs in his life. What kind of directors with weird personalities had he not dealt with? James Cameron's strong and irritable temper, Peter Jackson's calculation of gains and losses, and his unwillingness to give in. Of course, there were also the two psychopathic Wachowski brothers, who spoke and acted with a hint of femininity. After a little thought, Lyman is considered to be relatively normal among these extremely talented directors. Perhaps, what someone said, that there is only a thought difference between genius and madness, is right. Moreover, cooperation, or cooperation that Warner actively invited, how can it be possible without showing some sincerity? Even during the negotiation, it doesn't matter if one side suffers a little loss. Anyway, if Lyman has such a relationship with Warner, he may be able to get more benefits from him in the future. After making up their minds, several people began to chat about the film project again. After a while, Michael Clow had something to do, so he left first. Barry Meir looked at his watch, and it was almost 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so he said, "It's getting late. If Director Lyman is willing to do me a favor, I will take you to a place. We will have a simple meal, and then continue to talk." Okay. Lyman smiled. Barry Meir took Lyman out. After learning that the boss was going to invite Lyman to dinner, his secretary assistant was a little curious. He didn't know why this director from France was so valued. You know, as the chief operating officer of Warner, Barry Meir rarely invited people to dinner in person. Johnson, the agent next to him, was a little at a loss when he saw this situation. He didn't know whether he should go with him or what. Lyman saw it and waved him back. After all, it was a private relationship, and the real negotiation was not at this time. When they arrived at the underground garage, the secretary assistant drove a Bentley luxury car out of the gate of Warner headquarters and drove towards Beverly Hills. "Go to that club," Barry Meir said, and explained to Lyman, "the scenery over there is nice. If you have time, Director Lyman can go there often." After about 20 minutes, the car slowed down. On both sides of the road were neatly trimmed oak trees, standing like two rows of guards, giving people a solemn feeling. After the guard let him in, he could see a huge lawn at a glance. This is Beverly Hills, and it is luxurious to have such a large piece of land to build a club, and also to have a racer course and a golf course. Of course, what Lemon didn't know was that the membership fee of this club was also terribly high, and not everyone could become a member, only the so-called upper class could. As for what the upper class is, of course, it means being rich and having status. To Lemon, as long as there is enough money, you can build a more luxurious club than this one. Anyway, in such a country where capital prevails, being rich enough means having enough status. Don't you see that those powerful capitalists can even influence the policies of the White House? Speaking of this, we have to mention the Koch brothers. They have always pursued the concept of the radical right wing, advocating a small government model, preferably so small that it is invisible, advocating tax cuts, preferably to no taxes, advocating reduced market supervision, preferably no supervision. And behind them is the result of 2 generations of hard work in their family. Koch Industries, one of the most powerful companies in the world. Since it is not listed and does not need to publish annual reports, no one knows how much Koch Industries actually makes. However, the only thing that is clear is that these 2 people have both entered the top 20 of the Forbes rich list based on their net worth. And what did they do to influence the White House? 1. Set up a large number of charitable foundations. In the United States, charity itself is a tax haven for the rich, and any capitalist will operate it, because the money spent on charity does not need to be taxed, and the content of the operation does not need to be disclosed. That is, these charitable donations can be used for whatever they want. Invest in intellectuals to go to school and do research. Trigger changes in people's concepts too. Set up a large number of think tanks and research institutes. Turn their right-wing ideas into actual policy research reports. 3. Form social groups, package ideas as the voice of the masses, and put pressure on elected bureaucrats. Turn personal ideas into the ideas of the masses. 4. Participate in elections. Start from the core. For example, their foundation once supported Reagan's election as president, and that year the White House did what they wanted. Tax cuts for the rich, tax increases for the middle class, tax cuts for their oil industry, etc. The most famous sentence the Koch brothers said was, "Government is not the solution to the problem. Government is the problem itself." Oh, by the way, they also contributed to the Tea Party movement. The Tea Party movement refers to a large number of demonstrations participated by the grassroots people in the United States. Their philosophy is, government intervention is a reason for the deterioration of the economy. In order to let everyone live a good life again, government supervision should be weakened. Someone once said sarcastically about this matter, this is a grassroots movement to make the richest 1% pay less taxes. Even the latest Secretary of State Pompeo was able to smoothly enter the core management of the government, which was promoted by the Koch brothers. You have to know that this guy became someone's retainer after graduating from college. Even when he first accumulated social experience, he worked in a company invested by Koch Industries. Later, in the House of Representatives election, he also took the political donations of the Koch brothers and relied on the National Rifle Association. This is the largest social group in the United States, and the political direction is self-evident, to promote all the way up. As for his political philosophy, it is of course the same old stuff. He is against the Democratic Party, against ethnic minorities, against Clinton, against Hillary, against ****, and against climate change. Anyway, he is against anything or anyone that is not good for the rich. Okay, I have strayed off topic. All of the above is actually inspired by my feelings. When I was browsing Yahoo today, I was disgusted. It is already 9102, and there are still people who believe that the United States is free and democratic. Can't see the wall of *****. They are really blind. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 224 Preliminary Confirmation, Subscription Recommendation. After the car passed a rockery fountain and stopped in an open-air parking lot, Lemon got out of the car and looked at the surrounding environment. He also sighed, this place is really nice. Barry Mayer heard it and smiled. If you think it's not bad, you can come here often. We old men often meet here to play golf. If more young people can join, it can also add some vitality. The secretary assistant secretly calculated that with Barry Mayer's status, since he said such a thing, it means that he really values this young director. Who is Barry Mayer? Let's not talk about how powerful Warner Brothers Pictures is in Hollywood and how good its performance is. Even if it is his own personal network of contacts and the dividends he gets every year, his net worth is not low. Forget it, I'm not very good at golf. Compared with that, I prefer to think about movies. It's good for young people to be ambitious. Barry Mayer smiled and praised. Lemon didn't say anything else and followed them to a restaurant. The decoration inside is still quiet and luxurious, and they are all separated like private rooms. However, to be honest, this meal was quite tasteless. With such a big age gap, it was boring and cautious. After the meal, Barry Mayer took Lemon to a private room in the club to continue discussing the project. After a while, they got to the point. Apart from the investment conditions for cooperation, tell me about your personal needs. Barry Mayer said so. Although the data in Warner's annual performance report is still quite good, in fact, various problems are also a bit of a headache. Sony and Columbia rose together with Spider-Man, and Warner was the most uncomfortable. In the past, DC has always been the most respected in the field of superhero movies. Now there is a sudden three-kingdom competition. 20th Century Fox's Fantastic Four and X-Men, and Warner is naturally not willing to share the fruits with competitors. But unfortunately, the adaptation plan of Superman and Batman has not been smooth. Not only many people in the company have complaints about the project, but the market prospects outside are not optimistic. Just when he was in trouble, someone suddenly took the olive branch he threw. Barry Mayer was already looking forward to this promising young director. As soon as Barry Mayer asked, Lemon unceremoniously stated his request. My personal opinion is actually very simple. Just give me a freer shooting space on the set. I will be in charge of actor selection, filming, post-production editing, and even the formation of a filming team. How about that? As for the subsequent distribution, copyright, and offline channel revenue, I can completely give up. Barry Mayer smiled and said, I agree to your request. But we have to discuss a plan first. If the film does not perform well, your company's investment and share will be used to make up for Warner's losses first. How about that? Okay. Lemon continued. In that case, the producer will also be the person I recommend, and Warner will not easily interfere with the filming and operation of the project. This will show that everyone is sincere in cooperating. Okay. Barry Mayer now likes Lemon more and more. This young man is really to his liking. Not only does he have a talent for directing, but he also knows when to advance and retreat. Voluntarily giving up the film copyright and not participating in offline operations is equivalent to voluntarily giving up a piece of meat. He is not arrogant, and his personality and temper are not so annoying. Director Lemon, have you ever thought about joining Warner? We will definitely treat you better than Europa Films. Barry Mayer couldn't help but say this. Faced with such a proposal, Lemon refused without a second thought. Sorry, I'm a director. As long as there is a good project, I will naturally cooperate. There is no such thing as joining anyone. This is bullshit. The reason is that Lemon doesn't believe that Warner will really focus on his project. Compared with Europa, Warner's competitiveness is too strong. They are not short of profitable projects, such as Harry Potter, The Lord of the Rings, and The Matrix. Barry Mayer was not surprised to hear Lemon's refusal. Lemon has never expressed too much desire to join since he dealt with him, not to mention that when it comes to relevant cooperation, he can fight for it while being able to advance and retreat freely. Obviously, he is a very measured and opinionated person. It's a pity that such talents cannot be fully used by me. Barry Mayer sighed. In the previous life, Barry Mayer was optimistic about Christopher Nolan's potential. He supported him to direct the reboot of the Batman series without saying a word, and they also cooperated in The Prestige, Inception, and Interstellar. As for now, he thinks that Lemon has great potential, so he naturally has the idea of whether he can join Warner. But Lemon is not Christopher Nolan. At that time, Nolan had just emerged and was not well known. He was wooed by Berrymere and a big platform like Warner, so he must be willing to join. If it was the same situation 2 years ago, maybe Lemon would be particularly happy. But now he has worked so hard for so long, has the qualifications, and has made several successful movies. If he is foolishly tied to a company like Warner, he will definitely not be as free as he is now. Lemon is not stupid. Of course, there are risks in playing both sides. For example, it is still unknown what Europa Films and Paramount Pictures will think about the cooperation. However, he is not afraid. Anyway, his own project still prioritizes cooperation with Europa. In addition to the favors of so many years, mainly due to Luc Besson, he also wants to stabilize the base camp there. After the two of them had initially agreed on the general conditions for cooperation, Lemon got up and said goodbye happily. Berrymere wanted to see him off, but Lemon asked his agent Johnson to pick him up, so he gave up. After returning home, Johnson couldn't help but mention it. Is the new project going to cooperate with Warner? Lemon smiled and said, yes, when the time comes, you will have to pay more attention to the specific terms of cooperation, but in fact it has almost been settled. Johnson suddenly realized that he didn't know what the specific cooperation was, but the news still made him very happy. After all, his career was closely linked to Lemon. Don't worry, I will pay more attention. Well, then you go back first, I'll go upstairs first. The roar of the engine sounded again. Lemon returned to his big house, came to the spacious balcony, looked around, and couldn't help but relax. After working so hard for so long, it's time for him to succeed, isn't it? Chapter 225 Video Audience, Subscription Recommendation. September 27th. In a screening room of Paramount Pictures in Hollywood, when the eerie drum beats matched the reversal of Jigsaw, the audience gave warm applause. In the screening room, in addition to the main creators of the crew such as Lemon, James Wan, and Ray Nava, there was also the distribution manager of Paramount Pictures and his staff. After the film was screened, several people exchanged their views on the film. It has certain commercial value, the story is very compact, and the viewing experience is smooth. The first person to speak was a middle-aged white man, who was also the person in charge of the film distribution work this time, named David Andrew. Another person also took over the topic and said, I think so too. This film should be very popular for some specific cult film fans. After all, these sophisticated killing machines and Jigsaw's idea of punishing those who ignore life will have a good appeal. But the audience of the film is still not very wide, and our publicity and distribution costs cannot be set too high. Another person suggested. After discussing for a while, in general, although the Paramount distributors recognized that the film would have certain value, they did not hold out much hope. Why? A new director with no successful experience, coupled with actors who were not very charismatic, and a film that was mainly a horror theme, except for Lemon, it really couldn't make others have too much confidence in it. Even James Wan was still nervous at this time. He himself was a little afraid of failure. Movies are like this. Before they are actually shown, everyone can only estimate whether they can be successful. Who can know what the market will be like? In the previous life, the cost of shooting Saw was so low, and because Lionsgate did not attach importance to this movie at all, it was pushed to the cinema without even doing much publicity. The number of theaters was even pitifully small, with only more than 200. At the same time as Saw, Buena Vista Pictures' The Sea of Fire and Universal's Midnight Lights telling the story of a football team were released, both of which had advantages over it. But the result was surprising. Among the three films, the ticket sales and market response of Saw, which was not optimistic, were superior. When it was finally released, it received more than $50 million and a global box office of $100 million. Lionsgate made a lot of money and decided to continue to explore the sequel of this movie. In this case, can you say that Lionsgate made a mistake? But it is true that few people were optimistic about it at the beginning of its release. Lemon certainly has the confidence. Now that the film has a sufficient shooting budget, it is not only better made, but also has richer lens colors and more prominent visual experience. Besides, publicity and no publicity cannot be compared. At least, it is better than the original. However, he cannot guarantee it completely. There are many factors that affect the box office of movie, including the quality of the film, the schedule, the scheduling of the cinema, and the competitors competing at the same time. Any change in any of these points is likely to cause fluctuations. All we can say is, do our best and leave it to God. Please prepare a complete publicity plan first. Lyman said. Well, don't worry, Director Lyman, we will make preparations in this regard. Compared with James Wan, David Andrews must respect Lyman's opinion more. This is indeed the case. He continued politely, as for the movie, we plan to release it on October 10th. I have seen the schedule and there are not many movies that can make a big splash. The audiences of various works do not overlap too much, which is more suitable for us. You decide on the arrangement. In this regard, David Andrews is obviously an expert. He nodded and said goodbye, then let's go back and contact the manufacturer to customize the movie posters and find someone to post them near the theater for promotion. Thank you for your hard work. This is our job. After a few more polite words and watching the other party take the copy out, Lyman smiled at the two new filmmakers beside him and said, okay, now it depends on Paramount's arrangements. By then, we can only hope that the audience and fans will accept the film. James Wan still looked a little worried at this time, just like when Lyman made his first work Buried, fearing that failure would ruin his future directorial career. Hearing this, he smiled bitterly, quite unnaturally. 2 days later, the promotion of Saw was carried out quite uneventfully. A flying promotion, advertising push, poster posting, online publicity since there was only $4 million in publicity and promotion expenses. After doing these, there was nothing else. At the same time, Paramount Pictures used its own channels and connections to let James Wan and several main creators participate in the recording of several TV programs and accept interviews from several media reporters. In addition, some tabloids hyped that this was a work produced by Lyman and a new work directed by the assistant director of Bad Guys. There were also soft articles such as the most thrilling movie this October, and if you can't scare you, I lose that were constantly output. Unfortunately, these tabloids have little weight. The gimmicks given could not be hyped up. It can only be said that it is barely better than the previous life. At least, there is always a group of audiences who can notice that such a film will be released, and it is not particularly unknown. Of course, even if this is the case, it is better than Lyman at the beginning. His second work 3 Idiots was treated in the same way, and it also got a good result by relying on the audience's word of mouth. After all, the final competition is still the hard power of the film. No matter how good it is, you can understand what kind of stuff it is after recognizing its essence. It's like a certain fortress, madly touching the small broken ball, saying that it is a science fiction masterpiece, and respecting the original work. Bah, it's just a stupid bloody romance movie. What's the point of bragging about sci-fi? If it's honest, there won't be so many people criticizing it. The key is to fool the audience like a fool, and it deserves to leave the stage in disgrace. As for a certain Lou, forget it, I won't talk about him. I want to complain about that hairstyle, not to mention how good his performance was. On October 9th, James Wan finally led the team to end the week-long tour promotion. Maybe the soft article worked, or maybe the title of the deputy director of Bad Guys was intimidating enough, or maybe the title of Lyman's producer, this point was also specially marked on the poster, had some appeal. Anyway, on this night, the premiere held by Paramount Pictures, some of the movie tickets released in advance were sold out. The venue, the National Theatre of China, was well decorated early. James Wan was nervous and expectant, waiting for the release of his directorial debut. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.